to the Disappearance Day celebration for Srila Prabhupada for the New Ramanreti community. Today is not only the Disappearance Day of Srila Prabhupada, the 43rd anniversary of that event, but it is also the 43rd anniversary of the founding of the new Ramanreti temple. Was at the same time as Srila Prabhupada's passing, the land was being signed over to ISKCON, and Amarendra Prabhu was the devotee in charge of this, and he is still with us now back in the new Ramanreti community. So we're having this Zoom interaction, and I want to call on Sesha Prabhu to make the first offering to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Ranjit Prabhu, for giving me the honor of speaking first. I don't know that I deserve it, but I'll try to do my best to fulfill the aspirations of all the devotees in glorifying Srila Prabhupada on this holy day of his disappearance. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Namamrita. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Bacharane Nirvishesha Sunyavari Paschachide Satane. Ukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Nangayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Bande Shri Gurum Dinataranam. I offer my respectful obeisances unto my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, the deliverer of this fallen soul. His mercy turns the dumb into elegant speakers and enables the lame to cross mountains. The extent of our dependence upon Srila Prabhupada and continuing to receive his mercy and revelations about Krishna consciousness cannot be overestimated. Indeed, one of the most wonderful things about Krishna consciousness is that there's always some fresh, newer meaning to whatever philosophical point that we may be contemplating or whatever service we're doing. There's always a deeper level, new realizations to be had. And that really separates us from material existence. I have an experience like that I'd like to share with you this morning, very briefly. And it has to do with Srila Prabhupada being a touchstone. We've heard this many times, that the pure devotee is like a touchstone. And by an almost magical ability, inconceivable ability, he spreads Krishna consciousness. And my conception of what is a touchstone and what it looks like is what I'd like to, is what has been refreshed in this process of Krishna consciousness, just in contemplating what I would speak this morning. I always had the visual conception of the touchstone in that pile of rubble that we hear about, that the devotee went to a sage and to get something valuable, and he got tricked into taking the touchstone, but he realized that wasn't the greatest thing that sage had to give. But the visual conception of that touchstone I always had was a rather rough, non-distinct type of stone that somehow or other had these miraculous abilities. But that vision, I say now, has been changed forever by trying to understand how Srila Prabhupada is a touchstone. He's a touchstone in that there are many facets to his ability to attract conditioned souls to Krishna consciousness. How could a dull, non-distinct stone act in such a way that it attracted everyone from varied backgrounds? No, not a touchstone doesn't mean a rough, non-distinct stone. It means a very valuable, beautiful jewel with many facets on it. That's a more appropriate way of contemplating the touchstone than a dull, non-distinct stone. But rather a diamond, a jewel, very nicely crafted, so that each of its facets, each of its thousands of facets, reflects the heart of individuals from all kinds of different backgrounds. Srila Prabhupada is unique in that he spread Krishna consciousness all over the world and to people of all kinds of different backgrounds. And we've just had, in the last few months and weeks, a vision of that by looking into the lives of those who he has touched, who Srila Prabhupada did touch, who Srila Prabhupada did change their life, and seeing how different they are, how Prabhupada's mercy shined like a reflected jewel in many different ways, to many different people, very different people. He's a touchstone. Examples. His Holiness Bhakti True Swami was one. Born in an aristocratic Bengali family, he was attracted by Srila Prabhupada to Krishna consciousness. But that's not the only type of person Srila Prabhupada attracted. And I'm focusing on three of our godbrothers and godsisters who have recently left this world, in praise of them and their service to Srila Prabhupada as well. So first, there's the Bengali aristocrat, Bhakti True Swami, attracted to Krishna consciousness to dedicate his life. But at the same time, we have that same touchstone, that one touchstone, attracting Krishna Nandini Devi Dasi from a rising Black family in Cleveland, Ohio. You can't get much different than that, than the Bengali aristocrat. But Prabhupada attracted her heart and her service for nearly 50 years, or over 50 years, in serving him and the mission of Krishna consciousness. And then we have our godbrother, Bhakti Madhurya Govinda Goswami Maharaj, or Mukunda Prabhu, a Bohemian, Bay Area, California hippie who was attracted to Krishna consciousness and dedicated his life, being among the first 100 disciples of Srila Prabhupada. All these three different types of people are attracted by the same touchstone, but that touchstone is not indistinct, insensitive, impersonal. No, it's like a beautiful gem. Srila Prabhupada is like a beautiful gem with many facets, able to attract the hearts of a variety, unlimited variety of different types of spirit souls. These three godbrothers and godsisters couldn't be more different from a material stance, but all of them surrendered their lives to Srila Prabhupada, as do all of Srila Prabhupada's disciples, present in the world now or who have departed the world. I take shelter at their feet that I may also be affected by a facet of mercy from the jewel which is the touchstone of Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Shesha Prabhu. Hare Krishna. I'd like to now call on Mukhya to give her offering. And after Mukhya, I would like to call on Ramiya Prabhu. He's there. Is he still there? No, he left.
No, he's still here.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much. Mother Mukhya, thank you.
Hare Krishna. Nama Om Vishnuvadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauralani Pacharne Nirvishesha Sanyavadi Pastati Deshatarine. So this morning, Pran Govinda mentioned something after Mangalartik that I had been meditating on anyway, and that was how on the appearance and disappearance day of Srila Prabhupada, the focus of the devotee is on our gratitude to our spiritual master. And by focusing on our gratitude, we can go deeper into transcendental knowledge and into our Krishna consciousness. And I'm sitting at my desk at home, and I have a picture on my desk of Srila Prabhupada walking down the walkway of the old Detroit Temple on East Jefferson, surrounded by different men. I see Mahatma and Baji Narayan and Adi Keshava and Sri Govinda. And then in the corner, just in the corner, the photographer caught me, my profile, just staring at Prabhupada with doing pranams, and he is staring right at me. So that look in my face reminds me every day of how much gratitude I have for Prabhupada, for giving me a life full of meaning. I don't have a meaningful life necessarily, but I do see the meaning in life, and that is incredibly fortunate. I've been reading this book, The Bond of Love, Prabhupada and his daughters, and I'm incredibly grateful to the devotees who put this together. But just hearing all the ways our God sisters have been impacted by Srila Prabhupada, all this associating with these devotees who I don't even know most of them, how this just associating with them through this book enlivens my connection to Srila Prabhupada and just helps my devotional service so much. So as we serve, Prabhupada's presence in our lives gets manifest more and more. And every day in many ways, we can see his hand guiding us and moving us, whether we're his disciples or his grand disciples. Our prayers to be of use to him become actualized in many service opportunities. And then we interact with devotees, especially for me with my close friends. I'm always feeling enlightened by how to make more progress, to become more purified, how to handle life's challenges, which are always custom made just for us, better. And this is all by Prabhupada's mercy that we have this. So there are just so many unlimited ways we can be creative in Krishna consciousness to find something perfect to do just for us. And the more I read the memories of all the disciples of Prabhupada in all the many forms that they take now, the more I see how each person finds just the right thing just for them to offer to Prabhupada in service. And even if we don't even know what our propensity is necessarily, we can challenge ourselves beyond our comfort zone and use that challenge in Srila Prabhupada's service. Even this year, like we're all homebound now, and we find many more ways even to engage in service through the internet, hearing more, we chant more, we learn more, we associate more with devotees from around the world, all in service to Srila Prabhupada. There's just never limits in service to the pure devotee and the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, because spirit is unlimited, and we are so fortunate to experience this in our lives. I was going to read something that a devotee wrote in this book because it's so much how I feel also. Her name is Govardhan Devi Dasi, and I don't know her. But when I read what she wrote, it was as if it was speaking just for me. She said, "My experience of Prabhupada's love and acceptance didn't come from the few times I was in his personal presence. Those feelings that I've got now have come since then. They've come in Prabhupada's absence. It's a wonderful thing to have known that I was there at the right time and was able to come forward, but the bliss in Krishna consciousness is always available. It can be a small thing, like reading in the Krishna book that Krishna takes his father's slippers on his head and brings them to his father. Whatever it is that devotees love about Krishna, whatever enlivens them, whether it's a kirtan or a class or a bit of Krishna book or their devotional service or association with each other, all of that ecstasy is coming to us because Prabhupada did what he did. We'd have no access to Krishna and the bliss of Krishna consciousness if it wasn't for Prabhupada. He's giving Krishna to every single one of us. That's Prabhupada's kindness, and it's the same for everyone. Without Prabhupada, there wouldn't be a Krishna consciousness movement. There wouldn't be any of the spiritual ocean that we bathe in. What he did was a wonderful, marvelous thing, and anyone who learns about it will find their heart overflowing with gratitude. I was really moved by this. And, you know, when you read lots of offerings written by lots of different people, little patterns start to show through. And one of the things that was so interesting to me was how Prabhupada custom made this movement for the people he was bringing it to. And I was surprised to learn in the beginning how he questioned the devotees. You know, I read how in one part he asked Govinda Dasi if she could swim. And then, yes, did she go to school? Yes. So he understood that the girls and the boys were educated in the same way. And so he gave equal opportunities and service to his girls and boys, and he loved them all equally. So these are things that we want to remember always, how Prabhupada custom made Krishna consciousness, not a cookie cutter from an ancient Vedic teaching, but created an opportunity to enter into the same teachings in a way that was custom made just for us. I would just finally end by remembering something Amarendra said in class once when he you know, the sale for the property, the Alachua temple property, was closed on Srila Prabhupada's disappearance day. So he said he considered this temple the last gift that Srila Prabhupada gave us. And I think that we have a great responsibility and a great fortune of utilizing this gift in a way that would be pleasing to him. So our daily prayer can be to please help us at New Raman Reti always utilize this gift he's given us in a way that will please him. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Ramiya Prabhu.
Thank you very much. Namamrita Krishna Consciousness Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Saraswati Devi Vani Pacharine Nirvi Sesa Sunyavada Puskar. So in my presentation or talk today will be a little bit different maybe than what everyone else may do, but I just feel this important for me to share. So in 1977, when Srila Prabhupada left this world, I know I had a very strong experience that, you know, here was this person that was my father, my everything in life. And he had gone, and I just, for some time, I couldn't quite understand how to go forward. But with the help of the devotees, of course, we got through that period. So now, fast forward to 2020, I wanted to say that I try to stay connected with Srila Prabhupada, and it's mainly through my service. My service is as I oversee the congregation in Tampa and the temple and activities in Tallahassee. So in Tampa, we have 25 families who are actively participating in Krishna Consciousness, and their home meetings, which is what we do, was stopped in March because of the virus, and we've been meeting weekly now online since then. It's not quite as strong, obviously, but we have a core group that are participating, and for Janmashtami, we did an online Janmashtami, and we had 160 families participate online, and 90 different kids entering in kids competition, coloring, and kids dressing up in different forms, Krishna and Krishna's incarnations. And we delivered to their houses of all 160 families, prashadam package, rice, dals, 2 sabjis, about 5 suites, everything. Everybody was very impressed and satisfied by that. Now going forward in Govardhan Puja last weekend, we did another celebration online, and we had about 60 families participating in that, and again, kids' activities. And part of that, we did some book distribution of about 300 Bhagavad Gitas that were sponsored or purchased on that day, last Sunday. We also actively preaching in the University of South Florida in Tampa. But unfortunately, in March of this year, due to the COVID restrictions, the university shut down all our on-campus activities, and they have not reopened. We tried to make some actions to interact with the students, but this university will stop even one-on-one meetings, any kind of meetings they said is not allowed. So basically we're kind of on hold there. We have a core group, but not able to do too much. Now, just wanted to go forward here onto Tallahassee, which is consuming a lot of my time. That this center, many people don't even know we have a center there. It was interesting because when we were discussing Anuttama Prabhu being the GBC, now that Tamahar Prabhu was retired, Anuttama didn't even know we had a temple there. And the temple was actually purchased in 1984. And we've had an active Krishna lunch program on campus since 1996. And we had president there, Brajananda, who was operating and overseeing this activities there from last summer in 2019 up through July. And we reached a level of 150 plates a day distributing Krishna lunch on campus in February. But then in March, the university shut down that program, which was being run on a local, university offered us a building, which they practically constructed just for our use. It had a whole steam table, had a whole sitting area for the students to congregate, had even a kitchen in the back, but they said they wouldn't allow it, and that hasn't reopened. So our income went totally down to zero in a matter of a couple of days. And at that time, we discovered the temple had major repairs that were required. We brought in a inspector, and he gave like a 10-page report, said there was about $100,000 of repairs required for the temple to even continue so that the walls don't crack and fall off one day. So it was pretty dire situation. And the devotees made a valiant attempt to continue on doing just Krishna lunch from the curbside pickup, but it really wasn't successful. So in July, we finally discussed and came to the conclusion that we were going to shut down the temple. All the devotees were going to leave, and which they did. And we were going to sell the building, which had been there since 1984, because we couldn't afford to keep paying the mortgage and the other expenses. But at the very last minute, just as everybody was moving out, I suggested that no, we should try and save the building and save the temple. So everyone left in July, and we found two valiant volunteers, Janardhan Prabhu and Chanadri Prabhu from Alachua, who volunteered to go up there and live and take care of the deities and oversee a little bit of prasadam distribution, as well as the construction. So this construction has required a whole lot of effort on our part, because we're trying to fix up a building for $100,000, which we had no money for, and do it for half that price if possible. So actively had to find a lot of people to come and see who was the right person who could do the right work for the right time. And we're about close to halfway through the construction, and we've had reconstruction, whatever you want to call it. and we're still finding bigger and bigger problems. But somehow or other, by sharing the story, people become aware, and I've had some people step forward who want to give some significant donations. So far, we've gotten about $30,000 worth of donations, and which I feel is pretty amazing in this time with COVID virus, and people that are donating don't even live in Tallahassee. So I feel that Srila Prabhupada, you wanted to keep this temple open and alive. And even if we can't be actively preaching right now, you have plans for it in the future. And we're doing our best, although, right now, even like we have 0 board members. We have our construction people, just 2 devotees there, 2 people, one's a devotee actually. And they're wondering if anybody else in all of ISKCON even knows that we exist. So they're encouraged by any help and support that comes. And just wanted to share that we're trying to save this valuable preaching outlet, that preaching center that Srila Prabhupada had, and keep it available for all future generations. And hopefully Krishna Lunch will start up again. So I apologize if any of you have heard this story. I don't think that many of you have heard of it. And any help and support, we've started a GoFundMe page to pick up some extra donations to help cover the costs. And, it won't be over until it hopefully reopens, but by Krishna's blessing, we hope that will be soon. So I appreciate Srila Prabhupada's given me this service, and I feel very strongly connected to him because of these intimate interactions. And thank you, everyone, for tolerating and listening to me. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, Ramiya Prabhu. I'd now like to call on Narayani Devi Dasi, and then after Narayani Devi Dasi, I think Soma Das Prabhu will be next.
Hare Krishna. Can you hear me?
Yes, very well. Thank you.
Okay. Namamrita Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Deva Vani Pachani Nirvishesha Shinyavari Pashita Deshitarne. Well, first, I'd like to express my gratitude to Srila Prabhupada for giving me the opportunity to engage in his service for so many years. It's my good fortune to have met Prabhupada and his disciples. And I hope that I can see Srila Prabhupada soon and serve him personally. When I was searching for a guru in 1970, I met Prabhupada's disciples who encouraged me, why don't you stay for the weekend in the temple? And so I stayed because Srila Prabhupada said he was going to come. But then what happened, once I was in the temple, Prabhupada phoned up and he said, I'm not coming. But he sent 4 sannyasis, and one of those was Vishnu Jan Maharaj. And so the whole weekend we were out on Harinam, and his Vishnu Jan's association was so amazing that after the weekend, I decided I'm not going back home. I'm not going back home. So not only myself, but 4 or 5 other people never went back home that weekend. And it was, even Prabhupada didn't even come. He just said he was going to come. And that was enough. Because I had been coming to the temple for a few months already, but I didn't have the strength, the determination to actually join the temple, which is how you'd had to become a devotee, only by joining in those days. So sometimes we get stuck in our progress in devotional service and we need a push to take the next step. So at that time, Prabhupada gave me that push. And throughout my life, he's giving me that push that I need to go on with my devotional service. So after 6 months, this was in Boston in 1970, the temple president, Satsrup, sent us to Florida. Of course, not by any train or plane or anything like that. We had to hitchhike. Put us out on the road, and that was it, with our yellow sheets on, and we had to hitch to Florida. And so we had faith in Prabhupada, and we thought, it won't be, what's the problem? As Prabhupada says, what is the difficulty? So we were in Florida, And after being a devotee for about 1 year, we were sent to start a temple in Japan. That was the training in those days, that you learn how to distribute books. Well, it wasn't books, it was only BTGs. You can lead kirtan, you cook, and out the door you go. And so that was our training with Srila Prabhupada. Then I got an initiation letter from Prabhupada. He gave me 6 instructions. Chant at least 16 rounds, follow the regular principles, read and study all his books, do deity worship, and go on Sankirtan. That's 5. And there was one more, which I'm still working on, and that is 24 hours be engaged in Krishna service. So after a few months, I got another letter explaining how to follow those instructions. He gave me 3 qualities that are necessary to carry out these instructions: to work enthusiastically, sincerely, and cooperate with the other devotees. So then 1972, Prabhupada asked for 50 devotees to go to India. So from every temple, devotees were chosen. From our temple in Dallas, we were chosen to go to India. So when we arrived in Juhu, Bombay, Mangal Arti, we saw the deities' crowns and Krishna's flute had been stolen the night before, because the deities were just living in a tent. And the men were in a hut, which was also the prasada room, office, kitchen. The women were on the roof of a building, and it was summer. And conditions were very austere. But we came with a one-way ticket, and we never went back. Of course, now I'm stuck here, but before that, I was there in India 47 years. So Prabhupada's enthusiasm, his love for us, made us do anything for him. So within 2 weeks, we were sent to Calcutta to be pujaris for Radha Govinda. And we got our Gayatri mantra there. So we were joyful to do austerities for Prabhupada, because no matter how much austerity we did, he did more, always. He slept less, he walked faster, he studied more, he wrote more, he sang more, and he gave more classes, and he traveled more. And so once I went on a morning walk in Juhu Beach. I was late. So when I caught up, Prabhupada stopped the whole walk and turned to me and recognized me, just saying, "Oh, Hare Krishna." Everything stopped, like time stopped. Who was I? Just some random devotee out of thousands. But Prabhupada had the time to notice me as if I were an important person. He had time for us. He was never too busy. And then while I was walking, he was walking so fast we couldn't keep up with him. And so, we were in our 20s, he was in his 70s, and I was always trying to figure out, how does he walk so fast? So in Calcutta, I was Pujari, and he would notice the deity worship during, especially he would mention in his classes. In one class, he said, this deity worship is being done under the direction of Srimati Radharani. So we had a very special opulence. We had 50 garlands donated every day, 144 roses, 144 roses. The bees used to fly in from the back window. A bumblebee would come on Radha Govinda's side and sit in the lotus flowers. On Jagannath's side, the small bees would come and sit on the garlands, just like you read in Bhagavatam in the 3rd canto. And so Prabhupada, when he saw the bees coming, he said, well, when the bees are coming to the deities, that means Krishna is pleased with the worship. One time I was doing Mangalarti and I turned around to offer the ghee lamp to the devotees, and Prabhupada was standing right behind me. And so I was a little confused. Should I offer him the ghee lamp or should I do a puja? So I think I did a quick puja and then I offered him the ghee lamp. And I was very nervous, and the whole arti was standing right behind me, 6 inches away. And after that, I thought, I should do all my service like that. The Prabhupada standing right behind me and watching me. So now I would certainly be more concentrated. So another time, Prabhupada was giving Gita class, chapter 9, verse 11. All the men had the book. They recited the verse. Women didn't have the book, but I knew the verse by memory. So I just said the verse, and Prabhupada was so happy. He really wanted us to learn his books. So in Bhagavatam, in a purport, Prabhupada quotes Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur, Yasya Prasada, Bhagavad Prasada. And Prabhupada says, if one very sincerely serves the spiritual master, Krishna certainly becomes favorable to such a devotee. Following the instructions of a devotee is valuable in following instructions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we're so fortunate we have Srila Prabhupada as our guru in ISKCON for all who will follow him. And as Prabhupada said to Satsvarup Maharaj, if you love me, I will love you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Now I'd call on Soma Prabhu, and after Soma Prabhu, Madhuryalila for their offerings. Thank you.
Okay, am I unmuted?
Yes, you're good.
Okay, thank you. Jai, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. It's so wonderful to hear all these devotees talking about Srila Prabhupada. That was the first thing that attracted me to becoming a devotee, was to hear the devotees tell their stories about Srila Prabhupada. And they told them with such love that I could understand that, Srila Prabhupada was somebody, really special. Of course, I still don't fully understand how special Srila Prabhupada is. Of course, he's Jagat Guru, the spiritual master and the liberator of the whole universe. And I am, and everyone else who has had contact with Srila Prabhupada, we're so fortunate to have his association. He's a pure devotee of Krishna. It was very nice to hear Narayani speaking about some of her pastimes with Srila Prabhupada. I was also in Boston in 1970. And I can remember that Srila Prabhupada said he was going to be coming to Boston, I forget, in May or something like that. And right before that, Satsvarup had written a letter to Srila Prabhupada to ask if I could get initiated, along with some other devotees. It was a list of devotees that Satsvarup sent our names to Srila Prabhupada. And then we got a letter back from Srila Prabhupada saying that because I'll be coming to Boston soon, you should wait, and I can personally initiate them when I come. And he said, and in the meantime, tell them to chant hard. So that was one instruction I got from Srila Prabhupada, to chant hard. And just thinking about Srila Prabhupada, and I want to just tell a few stories of some of my association. I can remember in New Vrindavan in 1976, Srila Prabhupada would give an evening darshan. He stayed there 10 days, and he would give an evening darshan every evening. And I had the good fortune of setting up his Vyasasan where he would speak. So I got to go to all the darshans. And I would usually, after I set up the Vyasasan and Srila Prabhupada came out to speak, I would sit or stand in the back and give everyone else the opportunity, to get closer to Srila Prabhupada. So this one time I was sitting in the back watching, and Srila Prabhupada, he was having other people read from the Bhagavatam, and then he would discuss it, and he would have his other sannyasis discuss it. And this one time, the Kirtanananda, who was in charge of New Vrindavan at the time, he came a little late after the darshan had already started, and he came and he sat on the steps in the back. And Srila Prabhupada mentioned, he said, somebody get him a cushion. And I was just struck by the fact that Srila Prabhupada was considerate, and he wanted to teach us how to treat, the older senior Vaishnavas, and he actually said, get them a cushion. And also in another darshan, there was the Mataji Gopalakshmipriya, who was just there with her sari, and she didn't have any chadar or sweater or anything, and it was a little bit chilly. And Srila Prabhupada even stopped the darshan and asked her, are you okay? Are you warm enough? And she was like too shy to say anything. So the temple president said, oh, Srila Prabhupada, she's just glad to be here, in your association. But Srila Prabhupada said, no. He said, you should take care of the women. You should make sure that they have everything they need. He said, you should ask them at least once a month if they need anything. And it was very wonderful just to see that Srila Prabhupada, even though it was a darshan, he was so observant, and he kept on, watching at everybody who was in the darshan, and made sure that they were comfortable, and that the Vaishnava etiquette was being followed. And he was, teaching us. Excuse me. And he was teaching us how to do that. So I just want to tell just another story. It's just the first time I saw Srila Prabhupada was when he came to Boston in 1971 in July. And he was, well, the story is that we were very poor in the Boston temple at that time, but this guest had convinced Satsarup Maharaj to rent the Four Seasons Hotel so that Prabhupada would have a very nice place to stay. So when Srila Prabhupada was there, at the very first night, Satsarup told him, oh, it's time to go. We have a nice hotel rented for you. And Srila Prabhupada's eyes got very big, and he said, hotel? He said, I'm not going. And he quoted a verse, and he said, the country is in the mode of goodness, and the city is in the mode of passion. He said, but a hotel is simply a brothel. He said, I'm not going to go. He said, I'll stay in the temple. And, we just had one room for him, and they put a mat on the floor. He slept on the floor. But Srila Prabhupada was very happy to stay in the temple with his devotees. And you could just see how he wanted to stay in the temple. He rather would be around his devotees than stay in some opulent place. And it was just a very, wonderful time. And of course, it just made us love Srila Prabhupada even more and want to serve him more. And that was the effect of Srila Prabhupada's association. He just, he changed their life just because he had so much Krishna prema. It was, coming from him. And by his association, you just wanted to render service to him. So anyways, thank you very much for letting me share a little bit on this wonderful day. I'll never be fully grateful enough or appreciate what he's given me, but I am very thankful. So anyways, thank you very much. Haribol.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. I'd just like to request all devotees, when you come on to the Zoom call, please check your messages, the chat messages. Sometimes devotees log on and their legal name comes up rather than their devotional name, so we'd like to introduce them properly by their devotee names. So Ricky, if you would please let us know in the chat room. Thank you. And the next I would like to call on is Madhuryalila. And after Madhuryalila, Namamrita Prabhu. Thank you. Is Madhuryalila there?
Okay. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Dear Srila Prabhupada, Hare Krishna. Please accept my humble obeisances in the dust of your lotus feet. All glories to your divine grace. I don't normally speak. Because of COVID and caring for my parents, I'm out of town. Even if I was there, I would be in the kitchen with Jitari making kachoris for you and wouldn't be able to speak. So today I have the opportunity. Srila Prabhupada, your disappearance is a very difficult time for me because it reminds me that despite having your association in 1975 and 1976 and having accepted you in my heart as my guru for several years before that, I couldn't formally take initiation from you due to extenuating circumstances. It is definitely humbling to be in this situation, but I accept it as much needed purification. I'm grateful that you came to the West at such an advanced age. Without you, we would have continued drowning in the cataclysmic ocean, life after life for millions of years. You gave us the opportunity to go back to Godhead at the end of this life. How can we ever repay you for that? The last couple of years have been life-changing. COVID has revolutionized the way we preach. Despite restrictions, devotees have found novel ways to distribute your books and have exceeded prior goals. Many online Sangha programs have surfaced, and online preaching and association has flourished. In that vein, Srila Prabhupada, our team of Amrita Kali, Namamrita, Vaishnavi, and I would like to humbly offer Nectar Talks to you today. Nectar Talks is the result of the Community Development Initiative meetings that took place here a couple of years ago. These meetings were organized by your grand disciples in an effort to develop your new Ramanriti community. Nectar Talks is a live talk show with the goal of bringing the new Ramanriti community together through exploring various topics such as how to balance spiritual life and career goals, how to raise Krishna conscious children in today's environment that is so saturated with material influences. We seek to provide guidance to the youth through discussion of mentorship. We want to highlight how to have satisfying relationships by highlighting successful couples in our community. We want to highlight devotees behind the scenes, to hear the life experiences of devotees as they relate to their spiritual life. And we want to hear the experiences of your disciples. What motivates your younger generations to do programs like CDI, Nectar Talks, or the Festival of the Holy Name? It's the deep gratitude and love they feel for you, Srila Prabhupada, for teaching us how to love Krishna. You are the single most motivating factor for them. You are their grand and great grandfather. You inspire them with your merciful glance. Srila Prabhupada, as we witness so many of our followers leaving this world, so many of your followers leaving this world, a few of us are working together to revive the end of care team, the end of life care team. Our goal is to provide a continuum of support to devotees as they transition to the end of life and help their families as well. This would also include community support after the death of a loved one. Srila Prabhupada, you were a stellar example of compassionate care. You nurtured, trained, chastised, encouraged, and pushed us to do our utmost in pleasing Krishna and you. You told us Krishna would preserve whatever ability we had and make up for what we lacked. We just had to be sincere and try our best. Shall Prabhupada bless me so that I may serve you eternally in whatever condition of life I may be in? Please make me dance to your tune. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada, your ever indebted daughter, Madhuryalila. Vanchakalpatarvishcha kripasindavevacha patitanam pavanabhyo vaishnavaya.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much. I now call on Namamrita Prabhu, and after Namamrita Prabhu, Divyanga Prabhu will give his offering. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for having me. Namamrita Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaura Vani Pucharini Nirvishesha Sunyavari Pastatya. So on this auspicious day of Srila Prabhupada's departure, I just want to offer my gratitude to him and to his legacy and all his devotees in our community and around the world who are such a family to me. I was born to extremely dedicated disciples of Srila Prabhupada, and it's just been amazing to witness how much his association has shaped their life. You know, both my parents, Yogeshwar Prabhu and Jyotirmaya Prabhu, to this day, I mean, I'm just amazed at how dedicated and how little they do for themselves. Everything they do is out of the training they've gotten from their association with Srila Prabhupada. And I'm a second generation recipient of that. I've heard of Srila Prabhupada my entire life, and it's a pretty high standard to live up to, I gotta say. And I have so much admiration for the first generation devotees who just were attracted by this special lifestyle and, of course, this amazing, perfectly logical philosophy of life that we've received from Srila Prabhupada. But still, for me, it's a daily struggle to live up to these amazing examples that are the first generation devotees, my parents, Srila Prabhupada, of course. And as I've gone through different stages in my life, I realized that the practice of Krishna consciousness is not always going to be able to be maintained the same way that I may have when I first moved to Alachua or back when I was in Gurukul. And so that's something that I'm always trying to figure out. And I know it's often the question at the end of classes, how do we figure out this balance? A good friend of mine who is also in the thick of Grihastha life with several kids once described Krishna consciousness as a luxury for people who have time. And I get it. I really understand where he was coming from with that. And I think it was kind of an impulsive, an emotional reaction. But nonetheless, I understand, you know, when we have so many responsibilities, be it family life, career, all sorts of crises that we're going through, how can we maintain Krishna consciousness in our heart at a level that is making us feel like we are worthwhile devotees and disciples or grand disciples of Srila Prabhupada? And I think there's definitely an answer, because I think Mother Mukhya was saying earlier that you know, all the events in our life have been specially tailored for us individually by Krishna. So these are all part of our sadhana, and so that's kind of my meditation today on Srila Prabhupada's disappearance day, on how to keep a good level of Krishna consciousness, be it externally through sadhana or internally in my own heart connection with Krishna in the process. Sometimes I feel like all I'm left with is an appreciation for the process of Krishna consciousness and a deep longing and hope that whatever desires are there inside me will be able to manifest fully at a time in my life, or who knows, maybe a next life where I can be a shining example for Srila Prabhupada. But in the meantime, I'm so grateful for the association of all of you, and I really miss the temple. I miss our sweaty kirtans where I could hug and dance with any friend or stranger that happened to be standing next to me. And so I pray to Srila Prabhupada and all of you that despite difficult life circumstances, I can rise to the standards that might catch a glimpse of Krishna's smile upon me, and that I can be of some service. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you. So now I'm calling on who is Divyanga Prabhu, and after Divyanga Prabhu, Virabhadra Rama Prabhu is going to join us. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhus. Please accept my humble obeisances, Lord Prabhupada. Namashishtam monamapi sachiputram atrasarupam rupam tasya grijam urupurim maturim gosdavatim radha kundam girivaramaho radhika madhavasham prapato jasya pratiti kripaya shri gurum tamanatosme. Haribol, gratitude, grateful for Prabhupada. This day is always really emotional for me, and I like to stay. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada, for saving me, and please forgive my offenses. And this is what he saved me from. I was just a regular hippie. It's me and my brother in 1970 or 71. And then I met Prabhupada, and there I am, Haribo. So I would like to thank Srila Prabhupada for taking the order of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta and bringing Krishna consciousness and saving the fallen souls of Kali. You've given us temples and deities, hundreds of temples, thousands of devotees and deities to serve. And you've always given your instruction to us what we should do. So we all know as disciples, we can never repay the debt we have to our spiritual master. But as sincere disciples, we try our level best every day. Thank you for giving us ISKCON, because we have a venue, we have association. We can, if I don't go to the temple in the morning and chant my japa and see Mangalartik, I feel like my day is wasted. So thank you for giving us that. You told us, and you wrote a little handwritten note. 4 things. 1, health. 2, chanting. 3, service. 4, reading. So if we take shelter, following our sadhana, I know when I wake up in the morning, every morning I wake up like a demon and I shake my head and go, Hare Krishna, and I pay obeisances to Prabhupada. And then I start with prayers for forgiveness for my offenses. And then I chant japa. And then I participate in the temple program. Actually, all of us has the opportunity to go back to Godhead. The only thing that can stop us is offenses. And if we're careful to engage in Krishna's service and not offend other Vaishnavas, somehow or other stay engaged in service. Because I know when Prabhupada left, I was devastated and I crashed and burned for a while. But I got back up and I took shelter of Sankirtan. It's the only thing I knew. So I would go out in book distribution, no matter how I was struggling and how emotional I was. When I got out in Sankirtan, I felt like I was with Prabhupada and I was doing the right thing. If we could just try to be humble and tolerant. Lord Chaitanya is the most tolerant. He said, Trinata Pisani Chainat, tolerant like a tree, humble like grass. So if we could try to remember that every day, that we're supposed to be humble and tolerant, and also to Tikshava Karunika, we're supposed to take Prabhupada's message and give it to others. That's the mercy part, Karunika. We have to show mercy to the other jivas that haven't been so fortunate. Srila Prabhupada said, this is from the 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita in the purport. An ordinary man with firm faith in the injunctions of the Lord, even though unable to execute such orders, becomes liberated from the law of karma. Imagine that. You conclude the purport by saying, one may not fully discharge the injunctions of the Lord, but because one is not resentful of the principle and works sincerely without consideration of defeat and hopelessness, he will surely be promoted to the stage of pure Krishna consciousness. These kind of things give me hope. Devotees ask me, how do you stay inspired? How do you go to the temple every day? How do you go on book distribution? This is how, by hearing from Prabhupada every single day. And every single time I touch his books or I listen to it at Prabhupada Box advice gave me, he's always telling me something and I go, what? What was that? In the 4th chapter, you also say, a Krishna conscious man maintains himself by his work just to remain fit for action in the transcendental service of the Lord. He is therefore immune to all the reactions of his endeavors. I mean, who can say that? Prabhupada's so kind. Prabhupada's mercy is unfathomable. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada, for everything you've done for me. If you please allow me to stay on the party, I promise I'll try to be a better disciple. And this is a quote from Srila Prabhupada back in 1948, where he said, this is the message of the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna lagiya yeba nitya yuda kori riddhi siddhi jnanatara mustira bitori. Whoever daily fights the battle of life only for Lord Krishna's sake discovers prosperity, mystic perfection, and transcendental knowledge in the palm of his hand. So Prabhupada has spoon-fed us this and left the path open for us. Srila Bhakti Sanata Saraswati Thakur says in the Chaitanya Charitamrita in one of Prabhupada's, at the end, the last purport of the Antilila, chapter 2. Bhakti Sanata says, although a faithful devotee may fall down, ultimately he gets the chance to go back home, back to Godhead, by the extreme mercy of the Lord. So rather than get emotional today and just be depressed and unhappy, after I listen to all the devotees' nectar here, I'm going to take it out and I'm going to go out and distribute books. And I'm going to wear a mask and be 6 feet apart from people, but they're all going to get books if they get near me. So thank you very much, Prabhus. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada, for tolerating me. Please accept my humble obeisance. Sarva Vaishnavara Paye Kori Namaskar. Ite Aparada Kichu Nahuk Amar. Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you. I'm
Thank
calling
you.
on our Virabhadra Rama Prabhu, who has just recently arrived from the Bhakti Center in New York. And we look forward to his association. And after his offering, I'm calling on Mahavishnupriya Devi Dasi. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Ranjit Prabhu. Thank you to all the assembled Vaishnavas. Thank you, Divyanga Prabhu, for heartfelt offering. All the other devotees for your heartfelt offerings. Namamrita Prabhu. I'm just tuning in just recently, so just heard a few of them. And I'm hearing like a beautiful chorus of gratitude to Srila Prabhupada on this most auspicious day, and feeling also just so much in my heart since his appearance day and before and throughout my life, but specifically this year in his appearance day, when I came before his Murti, I was praying to Srila Prabhupada and gratitude was just welling up inside of my heart. And it's become a mantra for me. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada. And that mantra brings me to the most sublime place in my heart, brings me to the most satisfying consciousness. When I look at my entire life, when I look at anything good in my life, and this, I was reflecting on it with my wife today before, and everything good in my life is traced back to Srila Prabhupada. in such a very practical and tangible way. Just trace that line and it comes back to His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Anything that is good, anything that is worthwhile in my life, any hope that I have in the world, any vision that I have in service in the world, it originates from Srila Prabhupada's desire and his heartfelt life of service to his spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. I can see everything in my life, the essence of my life is traced back to Srila Prabhupada. And it brought me, I was reading last night, and my spiritual master, Srila Radhanath Swami, I was reading in a book that he wrote, The Journey Home, something that felt so apropos in his first meetings with Srila Prabhupada that just encapsulated what I felt I was beginning to maybe feel a little bit of. And this is a quote from his book toward the end. In his glance and in this briefest of exchanges, I experienced the love of an eternal friend, a benevolent parent, and of God. Turning slowly, he walked away down the path, his wooden cane tapping the ground with each step. I closed my eyes and pondered. He is such a busy man with tens of thousands of people, the world over, waiting for a moment of his time. Why did he stop for me? I have nothing to offer. I'm just a penniless nobody who sleeps under a tree. That small gesture had a profound impact on me, more than many of the miracles I had witnessed. It was an impact I could neither understand nor explain. Perhaps I thought, the miracle of being an instrument of kindness is the most powerful of all. Srila Prabhupada, your kindness knows no bounds. Your kindness is like a wave touching hearts and souls eternally. Just see how your kindness is expanding ever increasingly through your disciples, grand disciples, friends, and well-wishers. Your kindness has touched my heart, and it gives me continuous shelter and helps me to experience a drop of Lord Krishna's pure love for me in the world. I ask for all of us that are tuned in right now, anyone that's tuned in on YouTube and on Zoom, just to close our eyes right now and enter into a prayer. Can bring our minds to the small and the profound ways that Srila Prabhupada's kindness has touched your hearts individually, directly or indirectly. Each of us have been touched by Srila Prabhupada's grace. My dear Param Gurudev, Srila Prabhupada, may we all become instruments of your kindness in our lives. We're so grateful, Srila Prabhupada. Let our gratitude expand to properly honor the gifts you've given us. Let our lives be lived in gratitude to you by following in your footsteps, to be instruments of kindness in the lives of those people the Lord has brought into our life, our families, our wives, our husbands, our friends, the strangers that we meet in the street, every person that Krishna has brought before us, the people that are right before us day in and day out. Let us be instruments of your grace and your kindness in their lives. The world needs your kindness more than ever. And please empower us to be your little instruments. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhu. I now call on Mahavishnupriya Devi Dasi. Thank you.
Mother Mahavishnupriya Dasi, is she, I don't believe I see her in here.
Oh, I saw her. Carissa.
Gotcha. Okay.
Video. Okay.
Oh, no. It's not.
Okay, there we go. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Dearest Srila Prabhupada, all glories to you. Please allow me to express my gratitude to you for accepting me as your disciple and for bringing me to the Bhakti Marg of transcendental reality. You are the perfect spiritual master for the lost souls of this world. Your constant dedication to Lord Sri Krishna and your own divine spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, plus your compassion, your vision, your mission, your generosity, dedication and determination, your equanimity seem limitless. In comparison, I am an insignificant soul, hoping to be able to continue serving you in this life and eternally. In Hawaii, in May 1975, everything about being in your presence was mystical, magical, educational, and inspiring for me. Everything about that experience of being with you for those 4 weeks was enlightening, inspiring, and illuminating. I felt like someone who knew nothing of spiritual life, and I was getting an intense crash course by your mercy. There was an occurrence with a fairly new bhaktin in the temple less than 2 months. This young girl was asked to make up the Charnamrita from the deity bathwater. I know she was shown how to do it properly as she had done it correctly before. But this one time when you were present, Srila Prabhupada, that didn't happen. When you discovered the error, having taken the Charnamrita, you walked calmly to the Vyasasana. You gracefully seated yourself, and then you spoke to all of us in a very firm, stern, grave manner. You said, "Who has put salt in the Charnamrita? Who has done such an irresponsible thing?" Then you continued, "It is not important who did this, but it is important that this never happens again. You are doing devotional service for the Lord, which requires that you be pure of heart, sincere, and fully conscious." He emphasized the word conscious. As he spoke it slowly, his eyes grew big and he looked around the room, searching the faces of all of us. You went on expressing, Srila Prabhupada, that you knew this was a distracted person whose mind was fixed elsewhere as they performed this service unconsciously. You emphasize the importance of being sincere and conscious in everything we do in our service to Lord Krishna. Our baby attempts to do any little thing for Krishna is just as important as doing something big for Krishna. In fact, everything we do should be done in a state of humility, sincerity, and with full consciousness. While reprimanding all 60 of us, you were firm, forceful, yet kind. I appreciated that you were so balanced as you did this. There was no anger, no threats, no punishment, no name calling or insulting, just your simple, firm words that spoke volumes. I understood this as a very serious matter, a lesson and a reminder to all of us to be careful and more thoughtful, as well as fully cognizant when doing any type of devotional service.
You said, Srila Prabhupada, that our sincere intention was of ultimate importance. Later, I realized that by correcting us so sternly, you were showing your love and affection for us, as well as your sincere desire to see that we all succeed on our spiritual journey. You reminded us that we had made a promise, an agreement to undertake a huge task that can only be fulfilled when we are serious, determined, and conscious. That task was in helping you spread this movement throughout the world. I appreciate so much the time, the care, the effort you took to instruct us properly in a way that I will never forget. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada. On another day, while giving Srimad Bhagavatam class, you spoke about the upper, middle, and lower planetary systems and their inhabitants. You were speaking from the 5th canto that you were currently translating while in Hawaii. You said, just as in this one universe, there are so many planets, hundreds of planets, so there are millions of universes with millions more planets. Yet on every planet, there is Srimad Bhagavatam, wherein our ISKCON movement is mentioned. For in each and every one of those Srimad Bhagavatams, there is mention of us, the Yavanas and Malechas, joyfully dancing and chanting Hare Krishna. It was so enthralling to hear you speak about life beyond our imagination. Further proof that the Supreme Lord is also beyond imagination. It was also mind-altering to me to think that we, all of us, and anyone with any connection to ISKCON, was written about for all the living beings in all the multitudes of planets and universes for all time. Simply astounding, Srila Prabhupada. This means that your ISKCON movement was predestined and fully authorized or preordained. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada, for creating ISKCON, for always guiding us gently and firmly. We can never repay our huge debt to you. I have so much gratitude to you for being the magnanimous, astounding, enlightening personality that you are. Your ISKCON movement has been a gift of the greatest mercy and benefit to our planet. As our dear God brother, Kalakanta Prabhu, has said in his book, All That Lies Between, and I quote, to find such a rare personality as Srila Prabhupada, endowed with pure love of God, is life's greatest fortune. Please accept my most humble obeisances, Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mahavishnupriya. And I'll now call on Samapriya. And then after Samapriya, Yadubara Prabhu will give his offering. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for having this wonderful program for glorification of Srila Prabhupada. And thank you all the devotees whose lives have been affected by him. It's really an amazing thing to me that so many people have dedicated every part of their lives to fulfill Srila Prabhupada's instructions, no matter what they were, big or small. Actually, they're never small for a disciple. So I recently wrote a book, and it took everything I had to write that book. And it made me understand what Srila Prabhupada gave to us. He wrote over 60 books, And he has changed the world because of this knowledge. I can only beg to remain at his lotus feet eternally. So I'd like to read something from my book. This is the first paragraph of the invocation. I offer thousands of obeisances again and again to my spiritual master, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Out of selfless compassion for the fallen souls of this world, he crossed the Atlantic Ocean on a steamship, celebrating his 70th birthday at sea. Accepting this quest on the order of his own spiritual master, he came to deliver a degraded civilization fabricated upon the pillars of sinful life. If I had not taken shelter at his lotus feet, I would not know how to live, what to do, or what to say. He is my eternal guide, and I pray that he will be pleased with this endeavor. So, this is called separation. First, I pay my obeisances. Namamrita Krishna Consciousness Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaura Vani Pacharane Nirvishesha Sanyavadi Paskadya Desha Tarane. The sun is the primary factor sustaining life throughout the universe with its all-pervasive heat and light. Life cannot exist without the sun. The moon nourishes the vegetation on Earth, and so also sustains life. Therefore, as sustainers of life, how could these two planets not host life on their surfaces? Similarly, the spiritual master, although not physically present, sustains the life of the faithful disciple, and thus the two are never separated. Their relationship is completely spiritual and not based on the condition of the material body. I have to change my glasses. Sorry. Giving life to all the worlds, controlling destiny, expansive rays of heat and life embrace infinity. Blood and bones could not survive upon its scorching shell. Does this mean the blazing sun can be compared to hell? In the night, the moon shines light to nourish land and fields. Fruits of the earth and harvest blooms, abundantly it yields. Is this source of sustenance merely made of dust, flaunting as its surface a barren, lifeless crust? As it is only foolishness to think that no one lives upon the sun, the source of life who generously gives, or on the moon whose nectar bathes us all and we survive. We are never disconnected. Your words are how I thrive. You showed us eternity, of which we are all part. And my eternal master is always in my heart. How can it be that you are gone when you are in my mind? Without the vision of your words, to everything I'm blind. For this moment, it may seem that we are not together. But I have made a sacred vow. No mundane thing can sever. I'm really sorry. If bound to you eternally, can there be separation? I place my head upon your feet in tearful meditation. Well, I said this once before during an offering. Now is the time for emotion and tears and feeling of separation from Srila Prabhupada. But as we can understand that separation exists in his books, that union exists in his books, and these tears will purify our hearts so that hopefully one day we will be united with him. Thank you. Glory to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you. I'm calling now on Yadubara Prabhu. And after Yadubara Prabhu, I would like to call on Svaha Devi Dasi to give her offering. Thank you.
Thank you, Ranjit Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prastaya Bhutare, Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namamrita. Namaste Saraswati Deve, Gauravani Pacharane, Nirvashesha Shunyavadi Praskatane Satanine. Actually, that wonderful offering by Samapriya Mataji was very, to see that emotion and those tears were glorious. And there's one God sister in Sharanagati, she would never speak about Prabhupada. And I wondered why. And she told us later that she even thought about Srila Prabhupada, she would break into tears. So thank you for that. Dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to your divine grace. Again, as we did on your Parents' Day, I would like to offer you a report on our distribution efforts and reviews from the viewers of your movie, Hare Krishna, the mantra, the movement, and you, Srila Prabhupada, who started it all. Just yesterday, your movie was released on Amazon Prime in Latin America and Russia. We are currently working on Amazon India, accepting the film, and are very active on Facebook with a group of around 300,000 people, all spiritual seekers, people who want to improve their lives. And we're inviting 50 of those people per day to become friends. Out of those, an average of 12 people accept the invitation, and in return, we send them a link to your movie. There have been wonderful responses. Here is one from Giovanni Ramirez, a senior case management at Investment Management in Stamford, Connecticut. I watched the movie and loved it. I may have gone to a small Krishna temple in New York City 11 years ago, and I definitely came across Krishna practitioners dancing on Mulberry Street. I'm astonished to have not known of this story, as I am an avid reader. This movie is a gift to the world and a wonderful tribute and testament as to the value and impact of one human life can have. Thank you for sharing this gift with me. I have been sharing it with friends and loved ones. This is from Vijay Prabhu, ISKCON Minister for Book Distribution. I was in Boston and one devotee was driving me around town. I asked him how he joined. He said he watched the first showing of Hare Krishna in New York City, and that did it. He loved it. Then he met devotees after the movie and was totally impressed. He was an atheist before, and now he's a devotee aspiring for initiation from Niranjana Swami. He's from Korea. Who knows how many others have become devotees from this movie? Dear Srila Prabhupada, it is you who are personally preaching to these fortunate souls who view your glorious life. You are directly inspiring them, and what better way to bring them closer to our Lord's than your personal darshan? Srila Prabhupada, you have said that you are non-different from your photos. In your movie, there are 130,000 small photos flashing by, woven into a tapestry of 90 minutes, where viewers can see you walk, talk, interact with others, always delivering Krishna's pure message. His Holiness Giriraj Swami, when he first met you in 1968, made a vow to bring as many people as possible to meet you, because he knew that anyone who met you, their life would never be the same. Decades later, Maharaj regularly brought dozens of friends and guests on weekends from his home in Santa Barbara to Los Angeles to view your film in theaters, knowing that a 90-minute darshan with your divine grace, but after a 90-minute darshan with your divine grace, the effect would be the same as meeting you personally. Srila Prabhupada, we beg you to bless us to continue our service for decades more, bringing you to those who are just waiting to be transformed by your divine association. Your lowly servant, Yadubara Das, on behalf of the Hare Krishna distribution team, Vishaka Dasi, Lilananda Das, Madhava Das, and Bhaktin Katerina. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Yadubara Prabhu. And it's the effect of that film is around the world, and it's so wonderful. And I'd like to call on Svaha, Devi Dasi, and then after Svaha, Mahatma Prabhu. Thank you.
Hare Krishna is Swaha. Oh, well, Amarish.
Okay. Can you? Okay, very good. Okay.
Hare Krishna. Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Padeshatarine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Dearest Srila Prabhupada, please accept our most humble obeisances at the dust of your lotus feet, at the dust of your divine lotus feet. All glories unto you, our most beloved master. In Srimad Bhagavatam class, as we are reading about the passing away of the great Mahajan Bhishma Dev, so beautifully illuminated by your Bhaktivedanta purports, we can better appreciate your Antyalila. As the great Senapati Acharya, you too were lying in an apparent painful condition to draw your disciples closer to you in imminent separation, while translating the Srimad Bhagavatam even up to your last breath and instructing them on every small detail, including the prasad for the devotees and the guests of the Bhaktivedanta Institute. Last week, we observed the auspicious Rama Ekadasi, the tithi when you completed your translation of the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. As we read the detailed account of this pastime in His Holiness Giriraj Swami's description, we could once again get a glimpse of your unwavering dedication, love, and devotion at the lotus feet of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj. How you always felt his presence as you toiled hard and long in fulfilling all the instructions he gave you and beyond. Similarly, Srila Prabhupada, as you taught by your example, we too can feel your presence to the extent that we take shelter of your lotus feet in following your instructions. Your disciples have shown us this by their shining example. Your dear disciple, my good husband, has been especially blessed by your grace to have been given the most auspicious order of helping build the TOVP. In the present precarious world situation of a deadly pandemic that has deprived us of the association of so many of your dearmost disciples, he is increasingly feeling your presence by taking shelter of your lotus feet. You have taught us all the essential principles of devotional service by your example. This state of utter helplessness and surrender brings about the greatest purification of our consciousness to then be able to invoke Krishna's mercy and become puppets in his hands. Srila Prabhupada, I can wholeheartedly identify with Lord Brahma's statement to Krishna about how he was unable to comprehend the extent of Krishna's glories. As an insignificant jiva, I can never perceive the full extent of your glories, but by your mercy, my heart is increasingly filled with gratitude for allowing me to offer you some service at the TOVP. From the time that I learned to chant japa in your rooms at the Melbourne Mahaprabhu Mandir, you enriched my life with opportunities to practice your teachings and have faith in Krishna's protection. In Sydney, I used to go for the Christmas marathon alone every evening after my duties at the hospital. I remember I would throw my arms up in the air and say aloud that my body belongs to Lord Chaitanya before I would set out for the daunting task of trying to stop and engage the lost souls in the Double Bay and Neutral Bay area until the early hours of the morning. I would rest for a few hours, then go to the temple for the Guru Puja and to hand over my collection for the night. And it was such a thrill to hear everyone's scores and get inspired and fired up. One time, I was able to get out earlier from the hospital and wanting some association, I decided to tag along with two of my god sisters. However, they had been Sankirtan partners and the spirit of competition was very intense. So when I asked them where they were going, they said the North Shore Hospital. And instead of the three of us going together, as I'd expected, they dropped me there and left. So everything is fair in Christmas, in love, in Christmas marathon. And so I soon found out that there was no soliciting on the hospital premises. So I had no choice but to go door to door. At my last stop of the night, it was late and it was a single man in his home. And when he went to get his wallet, somehow Krishna made me aware that this was a dangerous situation. And I just ran out and didn't look back or stop until I was far away at the bus stop. Even though I had to wait a very long time for a taxi, I was so very grateful for Krishna's protection. Fast forward to 2017, when we were heading for our TOVP trip to Hong Kong. Due to heavy rain, our connecting flight could not land in Newark, so we quickly got in a car waiting to drive us there. The driver said he knew a shortcut and would get us there in no time. It was pouring rain and visibility was low. Suddenly, we found ourselves in that small car driving on a solid line between two lanes or rows of semi-trucks, like two walls. My husband and I were sitting at the edge of our seats thinking the same thing, that we could get crushed at any moment. Adding to the already dangerous situation, my husband concluded that the driver was drunk. He missed our exit, and by this time, my husband was looking at the map on his phone, and we finally got out at the exit. Time was running out, so we had our assistant call the gate agent and requested them to not close as we were on our way momentarily. When we got there, someone just took our passports and ran while we got our bags. Only by Lord Narsinghdev's grace, we made it to the plane, the last ones to board, and weren't sure whether our luggage would make it. After all that adrenaline surge, we were just grateful to the Lord for his protection. From the Damodar-lila, we learned that we have to persevere for Krishna. There will be impediments in our service and some criticism as well. When the elder gopis were telling Mother Yashoda to give up her efforts to tie Krishna, because every time the rope was 2 inches too short, she was fixed in her determination to bind Krishna, and ultimately Krishna agreed to be bound by her love. You taught us all these lessons all through your life, as well as the last and the most important lesson of how to leave this world in full Krishna consciousness. There's so much to say because my gratitude list is very long. When I see everyone serving you so very nicely, my heart is filled with appreciation for their service. the world will truly recognize you as the Jagat Guru when you take your seat of authority on the Vyasasan at the TOVP. May that day be soon, Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for engaging us in your service with the firm conviction that service is a privilege. All glories to His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, your servant Svaha Das. Thank you very much.
Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Thank you so much. I'd like to call on Mahatma Prabhu, and after Mahatma, Jitari and Rangavati will give their offering. Thank you.
Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvisesa Sanyavadi Paschatya Satarine. Like Yadubara Prabhu, you were saying, when Samapriya was crying, I was also thinking, if we don't cry, something's wrong with us. And then I was thinking, so many of us cry in separation from Prabhupada, but many of us didn't see him that much. Many of us didn't have any personal association. And still we're crying. That's amazing to think about, isn't it? That some devotees had very little association with Prabhupada, saw him from a distance a few times, and it made that impression upon them. And I also wanted to thank you, Yadubara, for the work you're doing and the austerity you underwent in making that film and traveling the world. As I know it was austere, because I travel a lot and traveling is difficult, and I have some experience doing tedious work on computers with audio and video, and I know how much work it is, and I appreciate it, that you're doing an amazing service. I've had a meditation recently on the difficulties and austerities that Prabhupada went through to spread Krishna consciousness, and I think sometimes we may not either be aware of it or we minimize it, thinking that Prabhupada's a pure devotee, so nothing bothers him, and therefore he just goes on and on and on. But in reality, Prabhupada was dealing with some very, very difficult situations. And I believe that appreciating the austerity that Prabhupada went through becomes our inspiration for doing the austerities that he would want us to do. And I first went to South Africa in 1981. It was very, very difficult. And I wanted to give up. And my godbrother who was in charge there, Tulsidas, said, just read the Lilamrita. So I read the Lilamrita, the portion in which Prabhupada first came to America. And then I realized what Prabhupada was undergoing was infinitely more difficult than what I was undergoing. And it helped me tremendously. And subsequently, I heard a story told by Kaushalya in which some of the men were belittling her. And this was not normally the way it was in Prabhupada's presence, and definitely not the way that he dealt with her. He dealt with her in the opposite way. And she became very discouraged. And she came to see Prabhupada and said, I quit. This is too discouraging. And Prabhupada said, you have no right to quit. If anyone has a right to quit, it's me. And then he went on to explain to her how difficult it was, especially because ISKCON was taking root and he couldn't get any help from India, from his godbrothers. And not only that, as we know, some godbrothers were criticizing. So then after that, I heard Malati speak, and she said, there may be something you don't know, but when Prabhupada was first in New York, he said that sometimes he couldn't sleep because he had hunger pains. He wasn't actually getting enough to eat. And when I first heard that, I'd never heard that. And so when I first heard it, it was shocking to me. And so Prabhupada's expressed other ways. I've read other things where Prabhupada expressed difficulties and how difficult it was for him. And as we know, he tolerated and he wanted us to tolerate. The last thing I want to mention on this particular topic was Prabhupada's translation of his books. I don't know if you know the story, but he was having trouble finding time. And then he realized, well, the only way he's going to be able to do this is he has to give up sleep. That was not his normal schedule, to only sleep a few hours. So as the story, as I was told, was he prayed to Krishna that he could go without sleep so that he could get up and translate, because that would be the only way he could fulfill that order. And of course, we know what it's like to get up when you're not fully rested. It's basically torture. And so Prabhupada, you could say, was torturing himself so that he could write his books for us primarily and for the world. And was that easy? I don't think we should ever think what Prabhupada was doing was easy. Well, he's a pure devotee, so everything's easy. These things were not easy. There was another time when Prabhupada had arrived in, I think, Australia, and flying from India through time zones and jet lag. And this was the first time we heard Prabhupada say this. He said, I can't do this anymore. It's too difficult to fly these long distances. There's another story where Sri Kirti asked Prabhupada, is the prasadam okay? And Prabhupada said, the prasadam's okay except for the dal. He said, every day you're feeding me mud. Why are you feeding me this mud? But the point was, he never said anything until he was asked. So we never saw Prabhupada complaining, but there were things that were extremely difficult and austere for him. And I think it's a huge inspiration for us in the fact that to spread Krishna consciousness, it's austere, it's difficult. We have to do those austerities also. How much more time do I have? I'm totally lost track of the time. Or do I have time?
No, you're good. We're actually a little early. We're doing well.
So this morning I was reading from Tamal Krishna Maharaj's book, The Final Pastimes. I only had time to read from November 1st to November 4th. And probably I hadn't read that in, I don't know, since it was first written. And so visiting it now, so many years later, different experience. And I'm also the age of Prabhupada when he came to America, or a year older. I think he was 69. So it's a different vantage point looking at spreading Krishna consciousness and also what Prabhupada did. And one of the things that stood out very, very strongly was in these last days, Prabhupada kept saying, I'm very weak, I can't do anything. And around November 3rd, he said, I've given up hope living. I don't think I'm going to live. And I'm just a bag of bones. I'm just a burden on you. So it really got this sense of Prabhupada feeling he's not going to live, and the condition he's in is useless because his body can't do anything. And he's just a burden. And it got to the point around November 4th where he couldn't sit up anymore on his own strength. Devotees had to lift him up. And so he said, there's no need to eat. I can just drink something. So that time he stopped eating. And he took medicines, but it wasn't helping. But during this time, the most interesting thing that was going on, at least for me, is the katha, or the conversation, was all about. We're doing this here, and Prabhupada giving us comment. Tell them to do that. We're building this here. Oh, very good. Tell them to do that. Tell so-and-so to do this. What's going on here? It's like Prabhupada was all over the world. And he's 2 weeks before dying, and he has no strength. And he's all over the world, spreading Krishna consciousness. And as I'm reading this, And I mean, we know this, we've heard this before, but as I'm reading this in this particular state of consciousness on his disappearance day, I'm thinking, what an inspiration and what a lesson that he's doing everything he possibly can to help the conditioned souls. We all know the picture, translating right up to his last moment, thinking about what I can do to make ISKCON stronger, what I can do to help the conditioned souls. What an example in front of us, for us. And so I just wanted to bring up these 2 points because being Krishna consciousness is austere, and spreading Krishna consciousness is austere, and taking responsibility is austere. And these are all the examples that Prabhupada set for us, and these are all the examples these are all the instructions he gave to us. And I'll just end with one story, it's a funny story, and I think most of you have heard it, but it's so nice to repeat it. Prabhupada wakes up Guru Kripa, it's like 12 or 1 in the morning, calls him into his room, and asked what Guru Kripa thought was a quite unusual question, which was, what are you doing? It's like, what do you think I'm doing? He didn't say that. He said, well, Prabhupada, I'm sleeping. And Prabhupada said, why you're sleeping? Well, Prabhupada, I'm tired. And then Prabhupada said, why you're not awake like me, writing books? He says, well, Prabhupada, I'm not a pure devotee like you. Why you're not a pure devotee like me? So I think all these stories send a very strong message that, Prabhupada, do as I'm doing. We can't turn our back to the reality that being Krishna consciousness and spreading it is an austerity. And it's something that Prabhupada did. He tolerated a lot. He tolerated all of us. We know tolerating us was probably his biggest austerity. And he wants us to do the same thing. So I just wanted to share that. Thank you very much. And I'll be with you for a while, but at 11 I have to do another program. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. It was very inspiring, actually, to hear those pastimes of Srila Prabhupada in the final days. And I'd like to call on Jitari and Rangavati, and then after their presentation, Sukhada and Puskar, Prabhu. Thank you. I think you have to unmute. Hare Krishna, are you unmuted?
We don't seem to be getting their sound for whatever reason. It says they are unmuted. I'm going to try one thing real quick, Ranjit.
Okay, how about now? Can you hear now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Hare Krishna. Om Jnana Timirandasya. Yes, Gurudev, I was born in darkness. Many times my path came close to you. In the late 60s, you were in the Seattle area, and I was 300 miles to the east over the Cascade Mountains. Then, in 1969, I passed the devotees in San Francisco. On a vacant lot, a Rath Yatra cart was being built. Unfortunately for me, I did not get pulled into your family at that time. Then, for 6 years, I attended your temple in San Diego. Once, you gave a program at a football stadium, the world famous Balboa Park in San Diego. Still, being unfortunate, I was not given a chance to see you. Then in 1975, the devotees of San Diego, knowing that I had a VW van, asked me to drive a group of devotees to see you at New Dwarka. Due to seeing you, my path, my wandering, my being lost began to end. It took nearly 2 years for the darkness to completely lift. Being so covered, even trying to recall my vision of you at that time, is still very clouded. So now, 45 years later, the darkness is still gone. I pray, Srila Prabhupada, that I can share a fragment of your light with those I meet, so that they can experience the deep and profound experience of Krishna and Krishna consciousness that I have been blessed with.
One of the many stories that we hear about by the glorious contribution that Srila Prabhupada has made. For me today, I was thinking so much about how Prabhupada's books have been seeped in not only my heart, but so many of my godbrothers, godsisters, nieces and nephews, and grand disciples all around the world. And one of the things that is the most gripping is that the books, his purports, are almost like a trap. Meaning that once you've gone into those purports and you've read this incredible contribution to the world, to the universe, you can't really escape very easily if you want to do the right thing and to use your intelligence and to go forward in the spiritual life, to remove yourself from the darkness of the material world. And that kind of accomplishment is not, it's never been really done. I was looking that the Bible is one of the most bought and read books in the world. And then these other little books like Mao Zedong's books of quotes, Agatha Christie, all of her mystery stories, Jane Canfield, all these authors that have sold millions and millions of books. But you know, what are they really doing to pull us out of the dark well? Most likely very little, at least from my humble opinion, or should I say never to be humble opinion. And in order to actually step into that world of the Bhagavatam, this Chaitanya Charitamrita, and all of Prabhupada's books that have been sold almost 500 million. And we're getting up there in numbers to some of these long-standing books in this world. And I wrote this poem some years ago, and it kind of reflects what we in this world are up against, every single one of us, and how Prabhupada has thrown us that round lifesaver that is thrown over a ship when you're drowning, no hope, you're drowning, and someone tosses you that ring, and you grab that ring. Prabhupada said, you do have to grab it. You can't just look at it and drown. You do have to grab it. So this poem is called, O Great Senses. O senses, crashing ashore. How I wish I had you no more. You will smash me and lash me forevermore. O senses, crashing ashore. Oh when will the victory be mine? You look for the darkness in all the caves, and jitter and chatter outside Maya's grave. How can I pull this mind, which is like the wind that stings and pinches the heart's lonely strings? How can we know life's perils and fate, which are awakened at every dawn's gate? What is your sorrow and what is your joy? What do you care as long as you enjoy? O senses are crashing ashore. How I wish I had you no more. You smash me and dash me forevermore. O senses crashing ashore. How will the victory be seen from afar as we keep Maya's door just slightly ajar? O senses are crashing ashore. While seeing only darkness in life's lonely caves, the soul feels pain for making no actual gain. As we struggle and juggle to make life a dream, we're plotting and prodding our material schemes. What can we call our journey abroad that has no substance apart from the throne? You say you are the kings, and therefore go and let your heart sing. Sing and dance on Maya's strings, O senses crashing. So Prabhupada has helped us to control the senses by giving us the 4 regulative principles, by chanting japa every day, by reading these glorious instructions that he has given so perfectly. He gave this gift to all the conditioned souls. I thank you, Srila Prabhupada, forever.
Jai Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much. Good. I'll call on Puskar and Sukhada, and after them, Kishor Prabhu. Thank you.
Okay. Click OK.
Hare Krishna, can you see me?
We can see you.
All right. Namamrita Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Puja.
Wow.
Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatadishtarani. So on my Kindle, can you close that door? On my Kindle, I have Prabhupada's lectures. So every night before I take rest, I read some of Prabhupada's lecture, and it's always amazing. So a few days ago, lectures that Srila Prabhupada gave on Srila Bhaktivedanta came up. So they were just captivating, really, some of the things that Prabhupada said, so I just wanted to share those. So one thing Prabhupada said was that there's not really much difference between the appearance and disappearance, prakat and aprakat. He said there's that feeling of separation, but at the same time, that feeling of separation can increase our love. So I really wanted to focus on that, because when Srila Prabhupada, he talked about how he came to Srila Bhaktivedanta through a friend of his who was very eager to have Srila Prabhupada meet this sadhu. Prabhupada was not so interested, but because him and his friends had gone to an astrologer and the Prabhupada had shown his hand, when the astrologer looked at Prabhupada's hand, he said, "Whatever you say will be executed." So he wanted Prabhupada to come and certify Srila Bhaktivedanta so that somehow that would make everything successful. So Prabhupada went, and he said when he heard Srila Bhaktivedanta, right away Srila Bhaktivedanta said, "You young men, please preach this Krishna consciousness, please share this message of Lord Chaitanya all over the world." So right away, Prabhupada felt this was a powerful person. This was someone that could spread Lord Chaitanya's message. And he said he accepted him as a spiritual master immediately. So I thought that was very significant, because Prabhupada wasn't actually officially initiated for a decade later, but he accepted Prabhupada, accepted Srila Bhaktivedanta right away. When Prabhupada, this was in 1968, this particular lecture. I can't see now. And Prabhupada was with the devotees on Srila Bhaktivedanta Appearance Day, and he was sharing with them that how thankful he was. He said, what Srila Bhaktisanta desired, I am trying a little bit, and you are all helping me. He said, I have to thank you more. You're actually the representatives of my Guru Maharaj. And then Prabhupada starts to cry. He said, because you are helping me in executing the order of my Guru Maharaj. Also in 1975, when Prabhupada was speaking, he was explaining that what the Krishna Conscious movement really means is a variety of service to the Supreme. He said there's a varieties of services to the Supreme Person of Godhead. And if we serve with all the varieties, then the world will be peaceful. He said that is the Krishna Conscious movement. We aren't Nirvisesha, Vadis, impersonalists. We are personalists. That Krishna is a person, Radharani is a person, devotees are persons, demigods are persons, dogs are persons, cows are persons, trees are persons, fruits are persons, and flowers are persons. This is the meaning of Vrindavan. Everyone serving Krishna, all the different varieties. In 1976, Prabhupada shared a poem that Guru Das had found. This is a poem that Srila Bhaktivedanta, he had written to Srila Bhaktivedanta. And Prabhupada was so happy. Apparently, Guru Das was in London in a museum, and he found a stack of harmonists that he looked through. And he found this poem, and Prabhupada said he thought that it was lost. So he was so happy to find it. I'm just going to read a few of the verses. Adore ye all the happy day. Blessed than heaven, sweeter than May. When he appeared at Puri, the holy place, my Lord and Master, his divine grace. Prabhupada made the comment that sweeter than May, he used May because he knew that in the West that May was a special month, like maybe the sweetest, most glorious month. So it made me realize that Prabhupada was already thinking of the West. He was already thinking of how he could go there and how he could share it from getting that message from Srila Prabhupada at the very beginning. And then he says, "O my master, thy evangelic angel, give us thy light, light up thy candle. Struggle for existence, a human race, the only hope, his divine grace." And Prabhupada shares that the evolutionary theory that Darwin actually stole it from the Padma Purana, this idea that one species evolves into another, was completely his concoction. That really, the way it was presented in Padma Purana, that there's 8,400,000 different species of life, and that the soul transmigrates due to his desire, that is the real way. So Prabhupada calls our Western civilization a soul-killing civilization for just these reasons. So much misrepresentation. Prabhupada, he talks about how these two young women came for his darshan, and he asked them what they were doing, what they were studying. They were students, and they said, "We're studying botany." And Prabhupada said, "Oh, you're studying botany. So can you create a seed and then plant it, and then a banyan tree will grow?" And they said, "No, Swamiji, that's not possible." And so Srila Prabhupada was saying, so what is the use of your botany? You're just going in the middle somewhere, but you need to go to the source. You need to go to the original source. And that original source, that's Krishna. So Aham Sarvasya Prabhupada, everything's coming. All spiritual material worlds, they're all coming from Krishna. So Prabhupada was able to, in so many ways, destroy this image of the soul-killing civilization. Prabhupada says that go to the original source. This is knowledge. We receive this knowledge from Srila Bhaktivedanta, and the knowledge is still going on. You are receiving through his servant, and that was Srila Prabhupada. And in the future, some knowledge will go to your students. This is the Parampara system. So Prabhupada also emphasized that Vyasa Puja is for your spiritual master, and it's for all the spiritual masters. This is a celebration of everything going back to Krishna and Balaram themselves. And Prabhupada says, one day that you shall become guru and make students. He was talking to all of us more and more. So just like Prabhupada, the first time he met Srila Bhaktivedanta, he accepted him as guru and began to meditate on how he could serve him. His whole life, from that time on, he was thinking how he could serve. So similarly, we can be the same way, just like Namamrita was talking about the young man with so many kids, and that Krishna consciousness was for people who had luxury time. Well, Srila Prabhupada at that time, he also didn't have luxury time. He was also busy with working and with his family, but in his mind, he was thinking of how he could serve, and he was dedicating his future. So we can all do that, no matter what state we're in. We're older, don't have as much as energy as we used to have, but we can pray nimitta matram. We can pray that, please just make me an instrument and do your will. And Srila Prabhupada has the ability to empower every one of us if we just ask for that, if we just desire that, because everything comes from desire. Misled we are all, going astray. Save us, Lord, oh, our fervent pray. Wander thy ways to turn our fate. Adore thy feet, your divine grace. So I was just going to read this little excerpt that Srila Prabhupada from his lecture. And I was thinking how there's so much division in our society, and it's bred and it's permeated into our society with politics. There's devotees, they won't talk to devotees who are, right wing, or the right wing won't talk to the left wing. And it's such a waste of our time. Like here, Prabhupada says, you are American today. So tomorrow, even within America, if you become an American cow or American animal, nobody will care for you. Nobody will care for your politics, but this art they do not know. This science they do not know. They are under illusion. They're thinking I shall continue to remain American, so waste my time for American interests. But he's saying it's a waste of time. So, I'm not saying that we shouldn't vote or express our opinion that way, but we all have to come together for what's really important, for what Srila Prabhupada really wanted, which was to become Krishna conscious ourselves, to use our service, our varieties of service, to create Vrindavan. And Prabhupada will empower us. Hare Krishna, thank you so much. Puskar Prabhu.
Is there any time left? I'll say a couple of things. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. So I feel impelled usually to reach into whatever's left of my mind, because most people weren't there when Prabhupada was actually leaving in Vrindavan. But because I was there for so many months, from say April till the end, some of the points that Prabhupada was trying to make, some of the anecdotes. So I was called there. Tamal Krishna had a committee forming to try to clarify how the fifth canto was understood, and previously it wasn't printed even in the book correctly. So he wanted me to make maps. He telegrammed me to come there to Vrindavan from Mayapur, and so I'd been with Prabhupada in Mayapur, and I did this big portrait of Prabhupada, and he kind of liked that portrait. He said, "Oh, you can make these portraits," and he gave to all the big men. That kind of picture of Prabhupada surrounded by the original 11 gurus. Anyway, so when I went to Vrindavan, and we, along with Yasodananda and Tamal Krishna and this Prem Yogi, we would work on maps. So periodically, I'd say 4 or 5 times we went in, and we had found some papers that were 4 by 4 feet and scotch taped them together so we could have like 8-10-foot piece of paper, and we'd come in holding this giant map of fifth canto. With, of course, fifth canto, even doing a huge concentric circles. The whole Bhumandala wasn't even the size of a compass point, pinpoint. It really was way bigger than it should be. And so this Prem Yogi was a Sanskrit scholar, Bhakti Prem Swami, and he was presenting somehow it didn't occur to us the actual dimensions. And Prabhupada himself was saying we need a pundit. And then when this guy showed up, he affirmed that yes, he knows. Although there was some of the other senior Indian devotees who were complaining about his translations. He'd been doing translation for several months or a year even. Maybe not a whole year, but and so they were saying they didn't really, but Prabhupada was saying, I was in the room and Prabhupada was saying, yes, but blind uncle's better than no uncle. Even though they were complaining about the translations. So one time he showed how there's all the different puris, different 8 for the Digpal, the different main demigods, Varuna, and in the middle was Brahma Puri. And he said, so Prabhupada, this is like summer home for Lord Brahma. And Prabhupada said, yes, yes, summer home, why not? He's a big, big man, even here, he has summer home, why Brahma demigod, he cannot have like that. So anyway, at one point, so everyone had gone out of the room, and I was just there with Prabhupada, and I said, Prabhupada, you know, this Mount Sumeru is so big, practically, we didn't see that, wouldn't we? Or is it that it's subtle? And Prabhupada, yes, subtle. So I kind of took it in my head that, yes, it's we'd have to enter into a certain state of trance, meditation, samadhi to see this, what we're seeing in fifth canto. But we take it on faith that it's there. Nowadays they're struggling in the TOVP, and my only contribution is Prabhupada said it's subtle, so I have nothing to say. But he also said it would be very difficult to understand it. Anyway, there were times it became more and more somber. One of the shocking things was that Prabhupada had gone to England at a certain point. He was already in really weak state, and when he came back after I'm not sure how many days, he was in the back of the car taken from I believe the railway, unless they picked him up at the airport. I don't remember. He was in the back of the car, and he came out. It was very, very shocking how gaunt he was, practically already just very gaunt. I remember how we felt came in through the back gate into Prabhupada's quarters, and how it was so shocking. And then one day I was standing up where the restaurant used to be in the Krishna Balaram Mandir, and some rickshaws came, and I just wanted to present a little balance to how somber things were at the time. And those rickshaws, they're flatbed rickshaws that carried goods, you know, and they had big burlap sacks. And I asked Yashodananda, we were standing watching from the window as they came through the gate, and I said, what's in his bag? And he said, that's salt for the samadhi. So despite all that, and that day I couldn't even eat because it was so shocking to hear that the salt, the samadhi, they were already drawing out the lines with ropes in front of the property for the samadhi. Despite all that, still we thought probably would stay and stay and stay and stay. And but finally he left. But even when he first started to get very weak, one of the big ministers from, I think, Tamil Nadu, he had come to see Prabhupada, maybe chief minister, or maybe it was the governor. And Prabhupada had us arrange chairs, and he came with his family all the way from Delhi, and he sat around. And as soon as Prabhupada was helped out of his back room, the governor, he said, oh, Swamiji, you know, he was like that. Your health seems very weak. We want to invite you to our hill station. And Prabhupada didn't think about the hill station. I mean, he thought superficially, he said, well, perhaps. But he said, we're concerned with the health of the human society. There's no actual head for the human society. So he didn't purposely divert, but it shows how Prabhupada was just one pointed, always till the end, thinking about saving the human society. So today is a good day. We meditate. When Ramananda Roy was asked by Chaitanya Maharaj, what is the greatest misery? He said, I don't know any other misery except separation. Krishna Bhakti Varaha Bina Duk Nahi Ja. said, I don't think of there's any other pain, no other misery do I know except separation from the pure devotee. So today's one day we can pinpoint that idea, that separation, but every day is a day of separation from Prabhupada, and today is a special day. Jayanilo Premadana. We can sing that sometime and feel it. Like, after all, there's some emotion we can see. People have emotion, then we can relish that in a way, the separation. Of course, if there's no attachment, you won't feel that separation. So attachment, separation, Sambo, Ambiyo, Haribo, Chai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. My
Thank
clock broke.
Jai. So now I'd ask Kishor, and after Kishor, Mahendrani, Devi Dasi. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I had technical difficulties. Hare Krishna. Well, let me just take a seat because, okay. First of all, I'm very grateful and feel privileged to be able to offer this offering. Mother Mukhya wrote me last night, and I was told about my time. I got it in the morning. And when I was writing this morning, my offering, which is actually the first time that I'm writing an offering for Srila Prabhupada. I've spoken before, sharing gratitude of everything he's given us. But I realized I've never written a personal offering for him. And when I was writing it, it made me think of the relationship that Parikshit Maharaj has with Krishna, where he felt Krishna's grace and Krishna's mercy directly, but he didn't have, that Vapu relationship with Krishna. And he grew up with dolls of Krishna and hearing the pastimes of Krishna, and developed a relationship with Krishna through this mode of separation. So in the same way, when I was writing my offering, everything is mostly from what I've read from his books or heard from his disciples, the videos of Srila Prabhupada, the lectures, the bhajans, and this relationship where I have felt his grace directly, but I haven't seen Srila Prabhupada, in his Vapu form, and being able to serve him directly like that. So yeah, it was just an interesting correlation that I saw. So I'm just gonna go ahead and read the offering that I did for Srila Prabhupada. Dearest Srila Prabhupada, please accept my respectful obeisances. All glories to your lotus feet. Your name and glories have always been a part of my life since my infancy. Hearing your bhajans, japa, lectures, your vast teachings, and the stories about you have shaped my upbringing in the most comforting way. Just by hearing your voice, I immediately feel warmth, peace, and a sense of belonging enters into my existence. What you have established for my generation is something beyond my comprehension at times. I say at times because there are those moments of gratitude where I understand the path you have paved for us. Unfortunately, due to my lack of attention and faith, that understanding gets covered over. But by the association you have left us, I managed to see that the path is ever illuminated and easy to find. My experience in your ISKCON has been nothing but beautiful and positive. From preschool to high school, I was sheltered in the gurukulas that you envisioned for the future generations. Later, I found there were hardships in the process, but somehow I was fortunate enough to have experienced the safe, nurturing, and uplifting experience you wanted for the youth of our movement. I would say I was a late bloomer because it was only in my young adult age where I learned more about the struggles that our movement went through. I guess one becomes more aware of politics as age increases. However, it was too late. My whole life was already filled with amazing samskaras, and my faith in the mission, which you instilled in us at an early age through your ecstatic disciples and grand disciples, was set in stone within my heart. You have empowered your disciples, and each one carries a certain quality or attribute that you have. And by associating with them, we get to learn more about you. We learn about your regal behavior, your humor, practicality, gravity, your down-to-earth approach, your intelligence, your wittiness, your depth, your caring nature, your compassion, your expertise in all fields, and many other qualities that can be continuously chanted by Anantadev. A perfect teacher with many perfect students. How perfect. I have also been able to visit many of your temples in the 6 continents of the world, and every one of them felt like a home away from a home. There was always a special soul to be found in these spiritual oases that you created and inspired to create. Thank you for inundating this world with inspiring people. Thank you for establishing temples in the holy dhams. This is my first time writing you a personal offering, and want to take this opportunity to thank you again and again for sending your disciple as my life savior and guiding angel. My spiritual master, your disciple, instills within me more faith in you and your beloved ISKCON. He has been a perfect teacher for me, and how could he not, since he had a perfect example, the founder Acharya. You have given him so many mind-boggling tasks and instructions that the only way he is able to fulfill such instructions is by engaging his disciples in your service. He constantly reminds us that he needs our help to fulfill his services for you. Because of him, I learned more about you and the importance of our Guru Parampara. I hope to have an ounce of love that my Guru has for you. That would be my perfection. Just as you were able to fulfill prophecies and satisfy the Guru Parampara with the love and conviction you have for your spiritual master's instructions, please, Srila Prabhupada, bless me to have that same love and conviction so that I can make you happy. If sometimes I may forget you or your mercy, please don't ever forget me, because I always need your merciful glance upon me. Your grandson, Krishna Kishore Murali Das. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Kishore Prabhu, thank you. I now call on Mahendrani Devi Dasi, and then after Mahendrani, Vaninath Vasu Prabhu. Thank you.
Mother Mahendrani, if you could unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
We can hear you.
Thank you to all the devotees who have made this opportunity to glorify Srila Prabhupada possible. Today, as I reflect on my obeisance, dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my humble obeisance at your lips feet on this auspicious day. Today, as I reflect on your divine grace's physical disappearance from this world, I cannot help but also think of the disappearance of many of your stalwart disciples. Srila Prabhu said in a recent class that one God brother dubbed the next decade the years of tears, since we will continue to see many more of these great souls leaving one after another to serve you somewhere else. So many moons passing out of our sight. But you have trained them well and empowered them because of their surrender to you. As you left a legacy, they are also leaving a legacy to nurture and support your wonderful mission. As you more deeply entered the hearts of your disciples and followers when you physically left, they are also more deeply entering the hearts of their disciples and followers and continuing to nurture and guide them for your pleasure and for the glory of your mission. By your grace, as these moons continue to disappear, new moons are already rising among the next generation of devotees, many kirtan following in your footsteps. For your pleasure, they organize the most amazing festivals of the holy name. For your pleasure, every Janmastami, they create a replica of Vrindavan for the devotees to tour. This year, when this was not physically possible, they created a virtual tour of Vrindavan, complete with Harikatha at each holy place. We also experienced second generation devotees giving amazing, profound classes on the process of bhakti that they have learned from your books and lectures, from your disciples, and from the books of the Goswamis and commentators that you instructed us to study. They are following that instruction and going deeply into the practice of bhakti, carrying us with them, so we are also inspired to go more deeply into our own practice of devotional service. Among this second generation of rising moons, we find many serious devotees who are professionals in various fields and who are sharing and using their expertise to serve and nurture your devotees and to educate them in practical aspects of life that support the development of bhakti. In addition, they are showing by their example how to practice Krishna consciousness while performing the duties of earning a livelihood and raising a family. In all these ways, they are helping to build strong, loving, wholesome Vaishnav communities. You must be so pleased to see their activities, and they are raising another generation of great souls, manifesting your prediction that among the third generation, there will be pure devotees. The future of your movement is very bright. By your grace, as some moons disappear, new moons appear, and through them, the nectar from your lotus feet just continues to flow, a non-stop flow of nectar. We are inundated by this ocean of nectarian kirtan, katha, service to Vaishnavas, and the distribution of your mercy. Wave after wave is continually splashing over us, rising and breaking on the shores of our lives. In fact, these days with the virtual classes, kirtans, and events, it feels like so much nectar, so little time to relish it all. Today, I want to thank you for this continuous flow of nectar, for your continuous presence and guidance in my life through your books and lectures, and through the memories and realizations of your disciples and followers. I have been especially appreciative recently of a statement made by your daughter Sudharma in one of her talks. The statement was, "Don't think about your weaknesses, just keep turning your mind back to Krishna." This was very meaningful and helpful to me. Those words were coming from you, and I repeat it to myself often. It was another example of your guidance and support that is always with me. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada. All glories to your divine grace and all glories to your devotees.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mother Mahendrani. I just would like to mention that due to low bandwidth, we could not see most of Mother Mahendrani's offering, but the hearing was much better once the video was turned off. So this is just simply a factor of Zoom and the internet connections that we have. And so now I'd like to ask Vaninath Vasu Prabhu, Vaninath Vasu Prabhu for his offering, and after him, I'll ask for Rasamrita Devi Dasi. Thank you.
Krishna. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharane Nivishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarane. Vanchakapataribhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavnebhyo Vaishnebhyo Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna. So before reading my offering, I want to thank all the devotees for gathering. What I've heard so far has been so inspiring. The appearance and disappearance days when the devotees come together and glorify Srila Prabhupada and express their realizations. It is such a deep and inspiring experience for me. I offer my obeisances at all the devotees' feet, and I thank you so much for blessing me with your association. Particularly, I was reflecting on hearing Mother Narayani describing the early days and her experience in, as she said, the training in Krishna consciousness. You learn how to cook an offering, you learn how to perhaps give a class, and then you're out going to spread Krishna consciousness. So it gives gives me a certain perspective. This entire movement has happened within my lifetime. This is, I marvel at this. This is a miracle has happened within my very lifetime. I have a chance to see the tangible evidence of this miracle happening in my lifetime. And oftentimes in Shastra, we read about miraculous and amazing situations, but I have in front of me the tangible result of such a miracle. And I marvel at that. And it gives me great hope for the future, not only this Krishna consciousness movement, but this entire planet. And it ties in with certain things that I've chosen as far as my offering. And also, as I remember living, many of us are members of the New Ramanarati community. I was temple president there when there were probably 8 or 10 persons living on the property. And I remember it was so difficult. And I remember my consciousness at that time was not what you would call Krishna consciousness. It was something else. But somehow we went on. And now whenever I visit and see how the community has developed, that's happened in my lifetime. I get a chance to reflect upon that. So with that, I can take, looking at the future, the situations for the future, I can take that experience and attempt to apply it for future fulfillment of Srila Prabhupada's desires. So with that said, I will read what I have offered. Dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my humble obeisances on the anniversary of your divine disappearance. On this occasion, I would like to offer you a few statements from the Shanti Parva of the Mahabharata. This section has Sri Bhishma Dev's instructions to Maharaj Yudhishthir after the Battle of Kurukshetra. I feel that they are relevant to the 50% of your mission of reestablishing Varnashram. Bhishma Dev said, all that is past, all that is future, and all that is present, I behold as clearly as a fruit placed in my hands. All the duties declared in the Vedas, all those laid down in the Vedantas, I behold clearly in consequence of the boon you have granted to me. Whatever should at whatever time be said, I would say, O Janardana, through thy favor, O Janardana, I have become competent to discourse on what is beneficial for the world. Sri Krishna replied, whatever you say unto the inquiring son of Pandu will be regarded on earth to be as authoritative as the declarations of the Vedas. That person who will conduct himself according to the authority of your declarations will obtain hereafter the reward of every meritorious act. Bhishma Dev, then instructing Maharaj Yudhisthira, said, the science of kingly duties is the refuge of the whole world. The science of kingly duties constitutes the reins for checking the world. One should first select a king in whose dominion to live. Then should he select a wife, and then earn wealth. If there be no king, what would become of his wife and acquisition? Regarding those that are desirous of a kingdom, there is no other eternal duty more obligatory than the protection of subjects. The protection the king grants his subjects upholds the world. A person, upon the exhaustion of his merit, comes down from heaven to earth and takes birth as a king conversant with the science of chastisement. Such a person becomes imbued with greatness and is really a portion of Vishnu on earth. All the duties, principal and subordinate, of the other three orders are dependent for their observance upon the duties of the Kshatriya. The Vedas have declared this. Know that as the footprints of all other animals are engulfed in those of the elephant, even so all the duties of the other orders under every circumstance are engulfed in those of the Kshatriya. In every yuga, the duties of Brahmanas in respect to attaining to Brahmans first set in. These, however, are protected by kingly duties. The latter, on this account, are regarded as the foremost. The election and coronation of a king is the first duty of a kingdom. A kingdom in which anarchy prevails becomes weak and is soon afflicted by robbers. O Yudhisthira, those men on earth who desire prosperity should first elect and crown a king for the protection of all. Like disciples humbling themselves in the presence of the preceptors, or the gods in the presence of Indra, all men should humble themselves before the king. In kingdoms torn by anarchy, righteousness cannot dwell. The inhabitants devour one another. And anarchy is the worst possible of states. The Shrutis declare that in crowning a king, it is Indra that is crowned in the person of the king. A person who is desirous of prosperity should worship the king as he should worship Indra himself. No one should dwell in kingdoms torn by anarchy. Without doubt, all creatures live happily in the world, protected by kings exercising Kshatriya duties, like children protected by their parents. Kshatriya duties are the foremost of all duties. Those eternal duties, regarded as the first in the world, embrace the protection of every creature. Themselves eternal, they lead to eternal emancipation. Praying at your lotus feet to be engaged, your servant, Vaninath Vasu. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. So now I'll call on Rasamrita, and then after Rasamrita, we have Nandini Kishori.
Hare Krishna. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarine.
Dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to you. You are very kind by bringing Krishna consciousness to America. The only reason we know about the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Ramayana, and the Mahabharata, and about Kirtan, and many more spiritual activities is because of you. Thank you for spending your time and energy in coming to America to enlighten many people. You made so many temples and you wrote so many books. You shared with so many people the message of Krishna, which no ordinary person would be able to do. Thank you for coming all the way across the ocean just to give us Krishna consciousness. Your servant, Kunja Bihari.
Hare Krishna. So thank you so much I was feeling especially grateful to the temple and the management and the organizers for allowing Prabhupada's grand disciples to give offerings. And I thought that was very special, very wonderful, very grateful for that. We, all three of us, we in order to keep our time slot to make it shorter, we wrote our offerings. So I wrote something this morning I wanted to share. I inherited a deep sense of gratitude from my father, who came in contact with Krishna consciousness through one of Prabhupada's disciples. Although I was very young when my father contacted the movement, I could see even within my young mind a radical transformation, actually, in life trajectory, purpose of life, just by adopting and reposing my faith in this philosophy. But my real relationship with Prabhupada didn't come to life until I read Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita. I was actually thinking this morning how Prabhupada is such a phenomenon, such a powerful figurehead, such an immense personality, very powerful, very famous, and at the same time, he's a person, just like with Krishna and Vaikuntha, with so much opulences. But in Goloka, he's just a person. So I was meditating on how my relationship with Prabhupada transformed from that appreciation of his in awe and reverence, and actually trying to appreciate Prabhupada as a person in a more intimate way. So just going back to my reading here, my real relationship with Prabhupada didn't come to life until I read Srila Prabhupada. And the time of my life when I read Prabhupada's biography was a very difficult one. I was just hospitalized for meningitis and paralysis, and I had been sick for months before that. So I knew innately that Krishna wanted to refocus my life in a different direction and created this as an opportunity for me to hear the beautiful pastimes of Prabhupada. It was such an emotional journey that I found myself falling deeper and deeper in love with Prabhupada. And by the end of the Lilamrita, I was determined to read Prabhupada's books because I knew that would please him the most. Of anything I could do that would please him the most. And it's interesting how when I was younger, in my teenage years and even before, I had never had that motivation to read Prabhupada's books. But after reading his life and just being so touched on such a personal level, that determination came. So although I did not witness Prabhupada's pastimes on earth or his disappearance, I've lived through that experience, through those who loved and served him, and especially through the heart of my own spiritual master. To describe the great fortune of being in contact with Srila Prabhupada's movement is not an easy task, yet it must be done for my own purification. I pray to all of Prabhupada's devotees that they keep me near to Prabhupada's service and shelter on this most auspicious holy day. Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Your servant, Shyam Kishore Das.
Dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my obeisances. All glories to your divine grace. Thank you for your immense care and kindness. Thank you for touching the lives of so many souls with the pure message of Krishna consciousness. Thank you for your selflessness to sacrifice so much for our benefit. Thank you for your generosity in giving so many priceless gifts. The gift of your shining example of pure devotion and love. The gift of the vital and most precious association of Vaishnavas. The gift of the essential essence of the Vedic scriptures. The gift of your personal training. The gift of a worldwide community of devotees. The gift of incredible temples all over the world. The gift of an army of devotees behind you who are dedicated to share the message of pure bhakti. The gift of a pure diet and lifestyle. The gift of multitudes of books on transcendental knowledge. The gift of simple living and high thinking. The gift of Vaishnava culture and values. The list can go on and on. Thank you for giving these priceless benedictions, without which life would be so dry and difficult and full of suffering. In the condition of the world as it is now, it is so easy for people to slip into bad habits, which can damage the body and mind and bring about great suffering. Your gifts are the greatest protection from the detours in this world. You protect us from being locked helplessly in a sea of suffering. You have protected us from so many dangers. You have given a higher taste and spiritual knowledge and access to divine grace, which are the critical life-saving boat in this ocean of suffering. I regularly marvel in gratitude for all the gifts you have shared, which have altered the course of so many lives. I pray to forever cherish this gratitude. I pray to serve your servants and to forever serve you. Your servant Rasamrita Devi Dasi. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Ranjit Prabhu, you're on mute.
You're on mute, it looks like.
Oh. I had clicked, but it didn't unmute. Thank you. So now I'd call on Mother Nandini Kishori Devi Dasi, and after Nandini Kishori, then we'll ask Govinda Dasi for her offering. Thank you.
Please accept my humble obeisances, dear Srila Prabhupada, and my obeisances at the lotus feet of all your disciples and servants and grand disciples. I'm so thankful to you for giving meaning and purpose to my life. I'm so grateful to you for saving my life. Thank you for allowing me to serve your books. I feel your mercy showering when I share this gift, and my sincere gratitude for this. I would also like to share team of ISKCON Alachua scores. And during this pandemic time, whenever we have gone out, we have seen faces really eager to see meaning in life, to understand why this is happening, and they have fear for life sometimes. They sometimes don't understand why there is such a deep loss financially and on all fronts, health-wise, losing their relatives. And this seems like a total darkness, and except there is a light in form of your transcendental books. There is a hope because of the transcendental teachings you have given us. And there is an infinite ocean of love that you have left for us. This is your causeless mercy. And we just pray, sincerely pray that Srila Prabhupada, each and every person who is coming in contact with Team ISKCON Alachua, get that connection, and you give your special mercy today so that they can read all your books scrutinizingly. With this, I would like to share my screen and the scores. Hare Krishna, can you see it? So your compassion, sacrifice, love, and causeless mercy continues to flow, Srila Prabhupada. So far in 2020, we have distributed 50 Srimad Bhagavatam sets, 9 Chaitanya Charitamrita sets. We have distributed thousands of books on Friday Harinams, mainly led by Kishor Prabhu, Nitai Priya, J.R. Parijata, Mahamoini, Sankalpa, Ragatmika Prabhus. And it continues. It's such a blissful occasion. Divyanga Prabhu, Jai Govinda Prabhu, Gadagraja Prabhu, Adikarta Prabhus continue to distribute thousands of books across Florida. We recently did Leelamrita Marathon this year, and the response was, we were blown away by response. Mother Mukhya really started putting her entire focus and energy there. Ragatmika Prabhu helped, Ekadashi helped, Vaishnavi helped, Sri Vrindavan, of course, she's the leader. Without her input, nothing happens. So people from all over the USA and even India joined. And Srila Prabhupada, for your pleasure. These are the devotees who got many, many sets. Guru Prasad and Devrata, Pran Govinda Prabhu, Sharad Bihari Prabhu, Shri Gaurangi and Pravir Banik, Anita Polis, Jai Govinda Prabhu, Jai Kirtana and Krishna Bhakta Prabhu, Kirtaniya and Varuna Prabhus, Leela Padma and Radhika Raman Prabhus, Rasa and Sharanga Thakur Prabhus, Rasa Bihari and Mohit Kumar Prabhus. And then I will just add Prabhus to the later. To all these wonderful devotees who help distribute one set each. We are at 107 set score. And like you said, double it. We are even prepared to double it if you give us your special mercy today, Prabhupada. And those devotees who distributed helped us distribute single set are Abhigyan Srivastav, Achyuta Prayasi, Satya Govinda, Aditi, Ananga Manjari and Jai Kirtanariko, Ananta, Anonymous, Annapurna and Akanchana Krishna, Anuradha and David, Bhakta Arun, Matthew, Bhakta Rakesh, Bhakta Rohan, Bhakta Sanjeev, Bhakta Shakti, Bhakta Sri Ganesh, Bhaktin Ariana, Bhaktin Crystal, Bhaktin Leah, Bhaktin Shraddha, Bhaktin Shubha, Bhaktin Sugandha, Bhanumati and Madhusudan, Chaitanya and Deva Krishna, Drumila, Dwarkalila, Ekadashi Vrata, Gadagraja, Gaura Karuna Darshini, Geeta Dasi, Janava and Mahatma Prabhus, Janavi and Avatar Krishna, Janavi and Vaikuntha, Jen and Ildar, Jitari and Rangavati, Jatamamsi and Krishna Swarup, Jiva Goswami, Katyani and Bhakta David, Krishodari and Dwarkadish, Kshetrakya Das, Leelananda, Madhuryalila, Maheshwaris, Patels, Mukhya Prabhu, Parijata Prabhu, Pashupati and Chaturatma Prabhu, Punyakirti Prabhu, Pracharananda Prabhu, Prahlad Prabhu, Pritha and Tulsi Prabhus, Radha Kund and Dharmaraj Prabhus, Rejita, Renuka and Sudhir Kattu, Satyasara and Krishna Bhajan, Sharanagati Watson, Sachimata, Shailavasini, Shara McLaughlin, Shakuntala and Lal Garg, Sitadi Muni, Sujoya Banik and Babipul Roy, Swaha and Amrish Prabhus, Shama and Gijay Giridhari, Trivikrama Singh, Vegavati Prabhu, Vrindavan Leela, Rishabhanu and Vishnupriya and Godruma Prabhus. We offer our most humble obeisances at your lotus feet for helping us spread this knowledge. And thank you, Srila Prabhupada. Your Leelamrita is a testimonial to what one person can do if he just repeats the words of his Acharya. And on this day, I also pray that somehow or other, slowly, may you give this mercy upon me and my daughter Radha Sakhi. And please bless us so that we can always be of service to you. We can always be your instruments in doing this most beautiful service that gives you the most profound joy of book distribution, and really bring love and life and laughter to those souls who are looking for this. Again, I'm extremely grateful, and I'm really pleased that I can assist my Guru Maharaj in this small way. Please shower your mercy. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada Book Distribution Ki Jai. Thank you. So I now call on Govinda Dasi, and after her mother, Gopa Patni. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Haribo.
We can
you hear me? Okay, I wasn't sure. Okay.
You're a little out.
I wanted to. I don't know if you have. I don't know if you have the ability to see this painting or not.
Yes.
I think. Can you see the painting?
Yes.
It's on the wall now. This painting was a dream that I had of Srila Prabhupada just some years after his departure, in which I was told to paint it, and a devotee named Satchidananda painted it. And it shows Srila Prabhupada sitting on the curvature of the Earth planet, and all of humanity reaching toward him and pointing toward him from all nations. And Satchidananda, who is a fantastic Russian artist, completed the painting for me because I never had time. And it shows that the demigods are dropping flowers on him, and that in a zoom lens, if you look closely, the word ISKCON is written at the base of the Vyasasana. I wanted to share this because so many people have never seen this painting. And I did get some giclées made of it in China before China blew up. And so I wanted devotees to know that this is reality. And this is Srila Prabhupada's position as the Acharya for the age of Kali Yuga that we're in right now. And my offering is, I wrote something this morning. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada, for inviting us to come join you. It was a great party. And what a way to end it, with the complete collapse of Western civilization, just as you so often predicted. Now, some of us are leaving for better places. Our dear godbrother, Makan Lal, he became a sannyasi later. I forget his name, but I knew him as Makan Lal when he was a 20-year-old, bright-eyed Hare Krishna devotee in California. Anyway, a lot of us are leaving, and some of us will be joining you, Srila Prabhupada, in creating a spiritual revolution on some other loka, or maybe some other universe. What do we know? Our lives are designed to be of service to you and Lord Chaitanya's movement. Thank you, dearest Srila Prabhupada, for this wonderful gift, the real gift that keeps on giving lifetime after lifetime. Caring for my 100-year-old dying mother right now, which is what I'm doing, is a real close-up view of old age, disease, and death, and how eternal time, Kala, humbles everyone with old age and disease and pre-death circumstances. All the pride, the lording over, the jockeying for power, the offenses, the unkind words, everything comes to torment the soul on one's deathbed. So I'm getting a close-up view of this and realize that only the bare essentials remain, and that is our devotion to you, Srila Prabhupada, and to Krishna. And please let the bare essentials of only Krishna consciousness and devotion to your lotus feet remain long before that final exam. Back in 1967, am I okay? You've got a worried look on your face, Ranjit. No? Am I muted or not muted? I don't know. I don't know how to do this stuff very well. Oh, I'm okay. Okay. Back in 1967 in New York, you used to calmly turn the world globe in your tiny apartment in New York City and declare, Brahmananda, you will go to Russia. Rai Rama, you will go to England. Gorsunder, you will go to Japan. On and on like this. And we were just teenagers, just 20-year-olds who basically didn't know anything. And little did we know you were planning a worldwide revolution, spiritual revolution of the Hare Krishna Kirtan. And you often said this demoniac civilization is in its final phases. You will see it collapse within your lifetime. So get prepared, get self-sufficient, grow food, keep cows and get farms and all this. Now we are seeing the actual collapse right before our eyes. Now we are remembering your many warnings and predictions and wisely seeking shelter of your lotus feet. You used to say, in future, people will say this Hare Krishna movement saved the world. What can I know about that? Save the world from what? Could it be the evil plans of demonic dictators who would like to further enslave humanity and destroy the opportunity of human birth? That great opportunity after millions of lifetimes to realize our spiritual connection with God? Now we are already seeing some of your dire warnings come true, playing out in the streets of our American cities, and the fight between good and evil, God and godless, and atheism and theism is reaching mammoth proportions. As our well-known way of life changes daily, our so-called trusted institutions fail us, our financial system goes up in smoke, and our treasured political parties betray us. Let us remember all that you said, Srila Prabhupada. You could see the future perfectly. Let us become more intensely, meditate more intensely on the gifts of Krishna consciousness that you have so kindly given us. Your wonderful books that you yourself read from daily and used to comment. I didn't write these books. Krishna has written. He has dictated. And your lectures, your temples, and all the wonderful gifts at your grand party, the party of Krishna conscious mission landing on this earth planet. Let us treasure every tidbit, every morsel of prasadam from this party, that divine Leela, because truly, Srila Prabhupada, your Leela is eternal. We can enter into it, and simply by remembering you and your glorious activities and reading your wonderful books and chanting the holy names as much as possible, these are the ways that Krishna consciousness will save the world. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada, for giving us this grand invitation. And let us share it with everyone. So that's what I've written. I want to add one thing. As we see our cities crumble, I am at my mother's. She's in 100. She'll be 101 in December, and she has started chanting occasionally, Sri Hare Krishna. She watches following Prabhupada videos all day, not by choice. And I get to, and she's been a vegetarian 10 years. I'm a little bit of a fanatic, you know. So I want to let everyone know that I have 160 acres of good farm and timberland with good water, a well, even a hand crank well here, because we don't know how long we're going to have electricity with all the craziness. And I want to encourage devotees to get in touch with me who are interested in developing a project, a farm project here, a place of safety and shelter for the children of our children that Prabhupada predicted would become pure devotees. I'll only be here a few years more, maybe 5 at the most. So I really can't do this myself, but it's a beautiful piece of property, and I would like to encourage those who are young and inspired to get out and cut wood and grow gardens and do all the stuff that Prabhupada told us we would need to do, to please get in touch with me. And we'll name it, new name is Sharanya. Thank you. Hare Krishna. All glories to our beloved Master, Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So now I want to call on Gopa Patni, and she has a slideshow that she would like to think. So what I want to do, the technology willing, is to put the slideshow up on the screen. If I can do this share screen situation.
I do hope so.
Share screen. And where are we now here?
Do I need to push share?
Oh, I think I'm on the wrong page here. I think I'm a few pages.
Yeah, I need to go back a couple more.
How do I do that? There we go. I believe that's slide number 1.
Okay. Can you can hear me? Because I can't hear myself.
I can hear you, yes.
Okay, great. John. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my humble obeisances at the dust of your lotus feet. Thank you for dragging me back home over and over again. I wanted to share this presentation with you on your 50th anniversary of the ISKCON founding. But it has taken this long, and through the help of 2 other devotees, it's been possible. Prana Manjari and Lila Shukta, and dear Ranjit, who's running the show right now. My heartfelt thanks to you. So these are a few copies of newspaper articles from the early days that were found in a scrapbook made by your dear disciple, Hayagriva. Oh no, can you go back? Is it on a time limit, the turning the pages? Okay. Thanks. Howard Wheeler. Hayagriva, Howard Wheeler. His wife Purnamasi has this copy of this book, and she shared it with me and let me make copies of it. So let's go way back. This is the very first picture is a hand-drawn poster by Gaura Sundar and Govinda Dasi, way back at 26 2nd Avenue. If you can see down on the very lotus, the petal of the lotus flower, it says 26 2nd Avenue, Spiritual Master Swami Bhaktivedanta. And then on the right is a beautiful, glorious picture of His Divine Grace. I wish the resolution was a little better, but like I said, it's only copies. And look at Prabhupada, he's gazing with Krishna always on his mind. Okay, now we can progress to the next one. For some reason, it's out of sync. Well, I'll have to turn to. Okay. These are actual newspaper articles. This one on the left is from the San Francisco Examiner, but there's no date. And it's titled Tears and Rose Petals, Chanters Welcome the Swami. The devoted chanters who have found Krishna consciousness are at their blissful peak here today, for their spiritual advisor, Swami A.C. Bhaktivedanta, is in town to grace their temple at 518 Frederick Street. They were awfully happy and emotional yesterday when the holy man from India flew in from New York. Now, this is the San Francisco Examiner, but there's no date on it. And then it says the chant goes on. The chant is said to be the key to Krishna consciousness, constant repetition. Members of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness believe the chanting to transcend the material world and achieve the love of God. Devotees at the front of the receiving line kissed the Swami's shoes and placed sizable garlands of roses around his neck. All the young women and most of the men shed ecstatic tears. Young women gracefully floated rose petals a step ahead of his path, and when they were out of petals, they sprinkled water from their containers. Now, the next one on the right is also from England. It's a paper, but there's, oh, wait a minute. Yeah. It's from England, but there's no date. And it says, he's called His Divine Grace Abhay Charan Bhaktivedanta Swami, or simply the Swami. At the airport, John Lennon's white Rolls Royce was waiting to take the Swami to the Beatles' new home near Ascot. The Swami himself denied that his visit had anything to do with the release of the Krishna mantra on a disc bearing the Apple level. There are no hard and fast rules for chanting the mantra. Quite true, said the 74-year-old Swami. By chanting the Hare Krishna, we are cleansing the dirty heart. And there's a little picture of Guru Das down there in the right-hand corner. Okay, you can advance. This is a copy of the original Peace Formula by Srila Prabhupada, and it has quite a, there's underlined, he had, whoever typed it up for him, had it underlined very special words. Thus become happy and peaceful in the world. The great mistake of modern civilization is to encroach upon others' property as though it were one's own, and to thereby create an unnecessary disturbance of the laws of nature. These laws are very strong. No living entity can violate them. Only one who is Krishna conscious, God conscious, can easily overcome the stringency of the laws of nature and thus become happy and peaceful in the world. I'm sure everybody's read it, but you can see down at the left right-hand corner, it says it's issued by the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, Inc., 26 2nd Avenue, New York, New York. Okay, now, everybody's seen the poster on the left. Like I said, this is a copy of one of the originals that they would plaster up all up and down the town. The one on the right, and the one on the left is the Mantra Rock Dance in San Francisco, the Avalon Ballroom. The one on the right is from 26 2nd Avenue. More than likely Govinda Dasi and Govinda Das do this one. And I don't know if you can't really see, but on the resolution is not the greatest. But to the left of the chanting party, the whole background is covered with their Maha Mantra, or little snippets on what to do. Chant and dance and drown in spiritual energy. And then in this fashion, a man will easily attain to perfect eternal blissful life. Swami Bhaktivedanta, stay high forever. And then way down at the very bottom, you can see 26 2nd Avenue. And every little tiny space is filled up with Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Bhaktivedanta lectures on Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and other Vedic texts. Thank you very much. All right, let's go to, okay, this one's hilarious. This is from the Los Angeles Times, December 28th, 1968. And it says, Swami says people are living on moon. If astronauts land on the moon, they probably will be opposed by highly intelligent beings who have been living there for 10,000 years, says Swami A.C. Bhaktivedanta, spiritual leader of an attention-getting Indian cult that has grown from a few followers 2.5 years ago to initiates of 10 U.S. and Canadian cities. It's a matter of body. To land there, you must have the specific body, he said. With this body, you cannot go there. You have to change it scientifically, spiritually, or otherwise. The Swami nevertheless maintained that the present spaces used by astronauts are not adequate. With this body, neither can you land there nor can you interfere in their business, said the Swami. The Guru also indicated that any advanced civilization would not take kindly to dumb visitors from another planet. The movement, sometimes called the Hare Krishna movement, because of the importance of the chant using the words Hare Krishna and Ram, has drawn its early growth from the recent, well, it says the recent interest in transcendental meditation, but we know that's not. It's just funny to hear the perspective of other people. Hello? And then on the right is Swami and Hippie Land. My earplugs aren't working anymore. Oh. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. My earphones stopped working for some reason.
Anyway, your audio is very good, though.
Okay, thank you. Swami and Hippie Land. That's on the right. And see Prabhupada with his dictate. He's transcribing with his dictaphone. And Swami and Hippie Land is from the San Francisco Chronicle, January 18th, 1967. Holy man opens San Francisco temple. A holy man from India, described by his friend and beat poet, Allen Ginsberg, as one of the most conservative leaders of his faith, launched a kind of evangelistic effort yesterday in the heart of San Francisco's hippie haven. Swami A.C. Bhaktivedanta, who's 71, opened his temple at Frederick Street on the outskirts of Haight-Ashbury, domain of the hippies and the psychedelic scene. The Swami, however, will tolerate neither LSD, marijuana, or alcohol. He even draws the line at coffee, tea, and cigarettes and forbids sexual improprieties. His students, he said, are also required to bathe with daily regularity, and the eating of meat is forbidden. His aim, he explained, is to guide his following along the path of learning Krishna consciousness or the science of God. The Swami said his quarters in Hippie Land were selected by his disciples because the rents are low and not because he wants to convert hippies. A native of Calcutta and a graduate of his university, the Swami, which means one who can dictate to his senses rather than vice versa, said he expects to take his missionary work next to Montreal. The Swami's new temple is a small storefront with an open plate glass front. Incense and candles burn on the altar in the rear, and those who enter are required to remove their shoes at the door. Okay, if you can progress. Go to the next one. Okay. This says, this is also from England. When Prabhupada went to England, it says, happiness is Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, pronounced Ha, H-A-H, Ray, R-A-Y. Ha, Ray Krishna. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami arrived at London Heathrow Airport yesterday for a lecture tour that will lead the sincere to God and happiness. His young devotees who have recently established his movement in London received him rapturously. They strewed flowers before his feet and pressed their noses to the tarmac in humility. We have seen Indian mystics before, mysticism being India's once growth industry, but none has been able to offer such a simple path to God. It will no doubt help to spread the word that the Beetle company Alpha has brought out a record called the Hare Krishna mantra. It has been produced by George Harrison, which accounts for the Rolls Royce waiting at Heathrow yesterday. The Guru said he had come to teach what we'd all forgotten. It may well be a load of baloney, as a passing Heathrow porter put it, but may the devotees continue to be happy. They are the nicest people I know, said Miss Helen Gilson, a pretty young girl from West Lytham, who is an initiate. But don't you think those shaven scalps leaving that funny pigtail are awful, I asked. I think they're nice, she said. Everything looks beautiful when you're happy. Now, after me, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Evidently, she got the reporter to chant. All right, what's next? These are kind of out of order that I had, but let's go with it. This is from the Daily Sketch Friday, September 12th, 1969. Now, I'm not real sure. It might have been, I don't know. I should have Googled it, Daily Sketch. But it's Enter His Divine Grace, Abhay Charan Bhaktivedanta Swami to foot-kissing homage from disciples, Tim, Colin, Helen, and Dick. He's called His Divine Grace Abhay Charan Bhaktivedanta Swami, or simply the Swami, and he arrived in London yesterday. As he walked from the airport buildings at Heathrow, Skaven-head disciples, Tirthapad, Kulashekar, Dvija, and Patanjali fell to the ground and kissed his feet. And then you can see a really nice picture of Prabhupada and all the devotees bowing their heads. Okay, the next one is, there's no date on this, there's no paper name, but it's recipes. It says the love feast, food is set out for a banquet, which is part of worship conducted at temple by devotees of the International Krishna Conscious Society. And there's a recipe for wet vegetables, which is potatoes and butter and red pepper, cumin and cauliflower, turmeric and salt, and a pinch of asafoetida. And then the fresh pineapple chutney recipe from way back when. Halva, which they call it sweet butter. And then at the bottom, there's a recipe, they call it sweet things, which is made out of sweet butter and chickpea flour and sifted confectioner's sugar, which must be ladus, later to be known as. And then the next page is Prabhupada's answer to Dr. J.F. Stahl, and it was sent to the Los Angeles Times. Evidently, this Dr. Stahl wrote a not so nice review of Krishna Consciousness. This letter is on Database. I found it on Database, if anybody wants to pursue it there. Unfortunately, I don't have Dr. Stahl's letter, which I thought would be really interesting to see. But Prabhupada points it out with reference to your article in the Los Angeles Times dated Sunday, 11th January 1970, under the heading Krishna Chant. I beg to point out that Hindu religion is perfectly based on personal conception of God or Vishnu. Dr. J.F. Stahl's statement that Krishna cult is a combination of Christian and Hindu religion, as if something manufactured by concoction, is not correct. If Christian, Mohammed, or Buddhist religions are personal, that is quite welcome. But Krishna religion is personal from a time long ago when Christian, Mohammed, and Buddhist religions had not yet come to existence. According to the Vedic conception, religion is basically made by the personal God as his laws. Religion cannot be manufactured by man or anyone superior to man. Religion is the law of God only. And then Professor Stahl's feeling of disgust in the matter of constant chanting of the holy name of Krishna is a definite proof of his lack of knowledge. It is an authorized movement of Krishna consciousness. Instead of turning down the request to give Carey's course credit, he, along with the other learned professors of the UC Berkeley, should patiently hear about the truth of this authorized movement, so much needed at present in godless society. This is the only movement which can save the confused, frustrated younger generation. I will invite all responsible guardians of this country to understand this transcendental movement and then give us all honest facilities for spread it everywhere, to spread for everyone's benefit. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, spiritual master of the Hare Krishna movement. Yay. Okay. Now, if everybody can focus on the left-hand side, I'm really hoping the record live is in from the Zoom meeting is in the way for me to see. But can everybody see the storefront sign, what it says? It actually says, yeah? Okay. It says hot pants. This is from the San Francisco Chronicle, April the 16th, 1971. Market in Powell. The local followers of the Hindu god Krishna were chanting and hopping on Market Street near Powell yesterday, while F.W. Woolworth Company, intent on more temporal matters, was promoting a fashion fad at least as arresting as the robes of the worshippers outside. I just got a kick out of that. So, all Harinam devotees, remember, you must be hopping. Now, on the right there, that's the original cover for the peace formula. It just got out of sync one way or the other. And it seems to me that there should be one more as the ending. Yes. These are two articles about the consequences the devotees had to go through for Harinam. On the left was from January the 1st, 1970, about the Geary Theater in San Francisco, California. 7 saffron-robed monks left off their chanting and bead counting long enough yesterday to plead not guilty to charges of begging and disturbing the peace. The 7, all members of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, were arrested December 20th in front of the Geary Theater. Several persons filing out of a performance of hair complained the monks thrust sticks of burning incense in their faces and demanded alms. The municipal judge, William Phelps, scheduled January 22nd as the date for setting a jury trial on the charges. Now, the one on the right is from the Detroit Free Press, but there's no date on it. So the religious group Wednesday in court. 5 young men, heads completely shaved except for a tuft at the back, stood passively in front of the traffic court bench Tuesday morning. Members of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness were in court to answer charges of beating a drum, playing a pair of hand cymbals, and chanting the different names of God too close to the city-county building. A Detroit policeman, Charles Whitfield, ticketed them November 25th as they walked on Woodward between State and Grand River, wearing long golden robes, playing their musical instruments, and praying for the salvation of mankind. Specifically, Whitfield cited them for holding a street concert without permission within a mile of the city-county building. They beat a little drum, play a little cymbal, sell magazines entitled Godhead, and utter the different names of God as their meaning of praying for all mankind. And then it says on the very bottom, and they smile a lot too. So, dear devotees, keep smiling. Become a goodwill ambassador for Srila Prabhupada. Please help the Sankirtan movement now however you can. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada. With eternal gratitude, I beg to remain your servant wherever you are. Gopa Patni.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Deep dive into the past. And we have one more offering from Vani Devi Dasi, who's joining us from London, England.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for this chance to speak something. I couldn't pass up the opportunity to express my gratitude to Srila Prabhupada and the Alachua community. This is just a short appreciation. I'm not very good at speaking, so please forgive me. My dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to your divine grace. I have no qualification and no understanding, no realization, so the only thing I can really say or have to offer is a reflection of my gratitude, which I feel compelled to express. By your grace, all the good fortune that has come into my life is but a ripple of your causeless mercy. Having moved to a new country, causing many a lonely day, I often sit and reflect. The product of this reflection has been a deep, deep gratitude. The community which I was raised in was an overwhelming pool of love and encouragement and steadiness, an extension of your many qualities. You see, the priceless association, the love, the care, and the hugs from all of your sons and daughters I received growing up in Alachua keeps me going today. I can't even articulate all you have given me, but for the most important gift has been the beautiful devotees you've put into my life. Firstly, you gave me my mother, a Prabhupada woman through and through, and it's really only because of her that I have any taste, attraction, or conviction in my spiritual life. She keeps me on the straight and narrow, she tames my questioning mind, and is my rock. It's because of her unflinching faith, despite all the hardships that she has been through, her unflinching faith in you, Srila Prabhupada, is the reason I have any faith today. You then gave me so many aunties and uncles, like my Auntie Muna and Auntie Shruti Rupa and my Annie, who have sparked my passion for devotional service. Through them, I've begun my relationship with you. I've experienced a little drop of your numerous qualities and pastimes through their association. Through their association, I've been able to begin my own personal relationship with you and get to know you on a more personal level. As you have carefully molded them, they are now carefully molding me. You have also given me my spiritual master, who I owe everything to, who is my official link to you, and who keeps me practicing day to day and keeps me loyal to you. By his mercy, I have been brought closer to you through beautiful service opportunities. Thanks to my spiritual master, I'm learning to cherish and take care of every relationship you have presented to me in my life. Your gifts keep giving, because then you gave me my husband, who I'm so proud to say is also a Prabhupada man, faithful and loyal and pure in his service to you and understanding of your teachings. He has also brought me closer to you, Srila Prabhupada. My life is full, colorful, beautiful, and deep because of your austerities and sacrifices and hardships. How can I ever appropriately repay you? So thank you, dear Srila Prabhupada, and I humbly, humbly beg for your mercy to keep me in the path of your grace and for the continued blessings of your disciples, that they may continue to keep me in their prayers so I can always be in your family and in your service. Your aspiring servant, Vani Devi Dasi. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'd like to. So I would like to thank especially Manoram Prabhu and Damodar Prabhu and Leela Sukha, Devi Dasi, who have helped to organize and make this possible, make this Zoom call possible. I want to thank all the devotees, of course, who made such wonderful offerings to Srila Prabhupada. And we are going to have another session at 5:30 for those devotees who were not able, due to work or other commitments, to make offerings. So from 5:30 till 6:30 till the evening artik, we will have some more offerings from the devotees. Thank you all again. And all glories to His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.